At this moment, seeing that the fire tribe was about to attack, Xiao Dai refused to return to the Han tribe first. She insisted on staying here with him to fight the enemy. Looking at Xiao Dai's determined eyes, Han Feng was touched. He couldn't help but look at her in a new light. Helpless, he nodded. He thought to himself, it's good to let her witness this, as long as I don't let her participate in the actual fighting. Just then, the Shu walked over, followed by two women. They spread out an animal skin. On it was a pile of small black stones. Chief, this is what we found on them. It's flint. Han Feng picked one up to examine. Good work. Now bring all of them here. Light a few more bonfires. Bring a bucket of water and some white salt, and get another piece of meat. Yes, I'll prepare it immediately. He planned to interrogate these dozens of teenagers. Meanwhile, on the other side, the main force of the fire tribe didn't stop at Tuga Mountain. Instead, they continued east, marching through the night toward the settlement. The young men and women in the ranks were exhausted. They had been walking for over 5 days and still hadn't reached the Han tribe. Now, they were being forced to march at night. Everyone was complaining, walking all day long. So they asked their squad leaders, how much further? The squad leaders told them, we're almost there. At most, another half-day's journey. That's why the chief decided to march at night. They also promised them, the tribe has prepared food. When we arrive, we'll even get a late-night meal. To reassure them, the squad leaders described the Han tribe, saying the Han tribe raised many fierce beasts. They had endless food. They caught fish every day. Everyone had their own pottery. Salt was countless. You could eat as much as you wanted. Hearing this, the young men and women laughed heartily, full of anticipation for the Han tribe described by the leaders. The fatigue of the journey faded somewhat. At the camp on Tuga Mountain, 30 teenagers from the fire tribe had their hands tied behind their backs. They were kneeling in a row in front of Han Feng. Behind each one stood a member of the hunting team guarding them, one hand on their shoulder, one hand grabbing their hair, controlling them, forcing them to look at him. Dali had prepared the things he needed. Several bonfires had been lit. Beside them sat a small wooden bucket. Inside was clean water mixed with a bowl of white salt. Several thorny branches were soaking in the bucket. Next to the fire was a bronze shovel used for digging earth. Han Feng told Xiao Dai to step aside, then signaled to interrogate the teenagers kneeling in a row. There are 30 of you in total. 6 of you left marks along the way. It must be a 5-man team structure. Which of you are the captains? The teenagers had their hair pulled back, forced to look at him. Some didn't understand what he was saying. Some understood, but didn't want to speak. Their faces were turned toward him, but their eyes darted around, daring not to look him in the eye. Chief, I know who the 6 are. Shuya, standing nearby, spoke up. Separate those 6. Shuya immediately walked over, pointing out several people. The warriors guarding behind them immediately dragged the 6 out. The 6 teenagers who left the marks, seeing they were singled out, knew they had been discovered, and that they had been watched all along. There was no hope left. Each one hung their head, slumping down. They didn't know what Han Feng would do to them, but he would likely kill them. Han Feng looked at these 6 people. Among them was the one who tried to run earlier and got beaten by the Shu. Right now, that guy was kneeling, mouth full of blood, staring at the ground. You brought so much flint. You plan to set fires, don't you? Tell me, what did your chief tell you? Talk and you live. Don't talk and you die. Unexpectedly, no one spoke up. It seemed no one wanted to be the first to open their mouth. After all, the fear Li Yan had instilled in them was too great. If they betrayed Li Yan, they would be burned alive. They had witnessed Li Yan's fire punishments many times. The feeling of being burned alive, pain beyond measure, making one wish for death. It was better to just be killed quickly. Seeing this, Han Feng didn't waste words. He told Shuya to drag out the bruised and battered one. He ordered 2 men to hold him down. Then he held the red-hot bronze shovel in front of his chest. The heat radiated onto his face, causing the teenagers' eyes to widen. Sweat poured down like rain. Talk, and I'll let you live. Don't talk, and I'll roast you. But I won't let you die. Han Feng spoke while moving the bronze shovel closer to his chest. A few strands of his hair touched the shovel, instantly smoking up. The smell of burning hair filled the air. The teenagers struggled, desperately pulling back, wanting to get away from that red-hot object. But he was held tight. The more he struggled, the more he trembled. Han Feng glared at him, moving the shovel closer. A sizzling sound rang out, like grilling squid. The smell of burnt flesh wafted through the air. The teenager squeezed his eyes shut, screaming, "I'll talk. I'll talk. Don't roast me." Han Feng pulled the bronze shovel back, cursing, "Damn it. Wouldn't it have been easier to just talk? Did you have to force my hand?" The remaining 29 teenagers witnessing this scene were all pale with fear. Sweat poured out, blown by the night wind, chilling their spines. Everyone shuddered. The Han tribe warriors watching were also stunned. A moment later, they burst out laughing. Han Feng glanced at them. They immediately stopped laughing, but their bodies were still shaking. The teenager who was released immediately collapsed on the ground, soaked in sweat, as if he had just been fished out of the water. He looked down at his chest. Why was he unhurt? Then he looked at Han Feng sitting by the fire. He was sprinkling salt and chili powder onto a piece of golden roasted meat. "Why haven't you started talking? Want to try again?" he said while holding up the roast meat, shaking it in front of the teenager. The teenager looked at the roast meat in Han Feng's hand, feeling very conflicted. Silence for 2 seconds. He signaled, then spoke. "The chief told us to leave marks. When he leads the men to attack the tribe, he will light a signal fire from a distance. When we see the smoke, we are to set fire to the houses. When everyone runs in panic, he will lead the men to charge in. From a tribe to here takes several days. To Dream Valley takes 2 days. To here, I don't know." The teenager thought for a moment. He seemingly hadn't calculated it yet, because it wasn't a straight line. "All right, take them away. Tie their hands. Hang them on the trees, feet off the ground. Give them 1 bowl of salt water a day. Feed them once every 3 days. Assign people to take turns guarding them." Shuya and the others acknowledged the order, then dragged the teenagers into the forest. Han Feng turned around, taking the roast meat to find Xiao Dai for dinner, walking while analyzing the information he just gathered. From a fire tribe to Dream Valley is a 2-day walk. Although he didn't know which direction they were from Dream Valley, the fire tribe didn't know the way. They couldn't walk in a straight line to Tuga Mountain. So if they wanted to attack Tuga Mountain, they could only walk 2 days back to the tribe to gather men, supplies, then walk another 2 days to Dream Valley, then follow the marks to Tuga Mountain. This process would take at least 5 days. Adding it up, it would take them at least 9 days to get here. It is now the 5th night after the spring festival. That means the fire tribe will arrive at Tuga Mountain by the evening of 4 days from now at the earliest. At that time, they will light a signal fire from a distance, waiting for this side to catch fire. Then they will charge in, knowing the enemy's plan clearly. If he still couldn't win, he'd be a fool. When the time comes, wait for them to light the signal fire. He would set the fire himself and set up the formation, ambush them on the hillside, and wait for them to come. Thinking everything through, his mood was much lighter, happily bringing the roast meat to Xiao Dai. After everyone finished dinner, the Shu led him to the straw hut they had set up. Looking at the backs of him and Xiao Dai, "Da Shu's Mirke. Chief, do you know how to make babies? If you don't know, I can teach you. I have 5 kids already. I sentence you to stand guard tonight. No is leaping." Han Feng heard of his Shu trying to teach him, and immediately cursed in anger. "Damn it, I've lived 2 lives. Do I need a tutorial?" "Yes, Chief. I guarantee no one will get close to here." Da Shu replied seriously, seeing the Shu's sly look as he ran off. Han Feng was so angry he almost found a rock to throw at him. He turned and walked into the hut. Inside, it was cleaned quite well. A layer of dry grass was spread on the ground. On top of the dry grass were 2 short-haired antelope skins. Xiao Dai was lying there, face flushed red, but there was no fire in the hut, and no lamp. Pitch black. He couldn't see clearly either. He lay down next to Xiao Dai. After some rustling, Xiao Dai pulled his arm, pillowed her head on his arm, and snuggled into his chest. In the pitch-black straw hut, Han Feng held Xiao Dai in his arms, eyes wide open looking at the roof, lost in thought. Suddenly, he felt something was wrong. "Why aren't you wearing clothes?" Mom said, "This is the only way to bear your children." Her voice as small as a mosquito's buzz. A small hand placed on his chest, caressing. Han Feng was startled, speechless. "This mother-in-law is too good to me, isn't she? Wait, don't move. You're still young. Chief, don't you like me?" Xiao Dai heard him say not to move, and he even grabbed her hand, suddenly feeling aggrieved, sobbing. In the darkness, Han Feng felt the girl in his arms trembling. Hot tears fell onto his arm. He quickly turned sideways. Hugging Xiaodi tightly. Go Xing, no. It's not that I don't like you. It's just that we are still young. I don't want you to have children so early. It wouldn't be good for your health. But Xiao Dai still didn't seem to understand. He had to explain some reproductive knowledge to her. Giving birth at a young age leads to difficult labor. About half an hour later, Xiao Dai finally stopped crying, looking up with her small face, asking him, Chief, then when can I bear your children? At least 3 more winters. No, at most 2 winters. All right, 2 winters then. Xiao Di huffed, lying on top of him, saying nothing more. A moment later, she mumbled again. Mom said, later I will be the chief's wife. She told me to help you well. When we get back to the Han tribe, I definitely have to plant a lot of hemp. We have a lot of linen for you, for our children, and for the whole tribe. I'm very good at weaving. Mom taught me everything. Xiao Di rambled on, falling asleep on top of him, while Han Feng was still thinking about the tribe development plan. The Han tribe now has an additional 550 people. At the end of this month, the wandering tribe will bring at least another 100 people. The total population of the Han tribe is about to exceed 4 digits. Now, if we still use the loose management style as before, it definitely won't work. The Han tribe needs reform. Before, the Han tribe only had over 300 people, and only 4 tribes. Now it's suddenly increasing to over 1,000 people. The origins of the members are also more complex, coming from over a dozen tribes. What the Han tribe needs to do most now is give them surnames. Implement a monogamous marriage system, a household registration system, division of labor by profession. In addition, there must be a clear class system to make management easier. Most importantly, a strong army must be established. These things gave him a headache. Finally, he shook his head. Reform has to wait until we return to the tribe to implement. For now, just worry about winning this battle. Han Feng twisted his stiff neck, took an animal's skin, covered himself, and Xiao Dai. Then fell asleep too, early the next morning. Just as the sky was brightening, Xiao Dai was lying on top of him, sleeping soundly. Suddenly, she felt someone playing with her hair. There was also a wet sensation on the back of her neck, like someone was kissing her, but he was clearly lying next to her. So who was kissing the back of her neck? She slowly turned her head, suddenly saw a long trunk, wet and rubbing against her. Chief, a monster! Xiao Dai screamed in fear, shaking him awake, then hiding behind his back. Han Feng rubbed his eyes, looking at Ro Bao standing at the door of the hut. With an innocent look, licking its trunk, he turned to Xiao Dai and said, This is the Han tribe's elephant. It only eats grass. It doesn't bite people. Xiao Dai hid behind his back, nodding, still scared. But the next second, he suddenly felt something moving behind his back. Turning his head to look, he saw a large hole torn in the back wall of the straw hut. Another long trunk was poking in, rolling up the thatched grass and stuffing it into its mouth. He turned his head back, slapped his forehead. Damn it, see strange grass? Eat it immediately. You ate my grass skirt. Now you're eating my hut too. When Xiao Dai and he got out of the hut, Ro Bao and Hui Shan had already started breakfast. These 2 animals ate more as they grew larger, giving him more and more of a headache. Xiao Dai saw that these 2 animals really only ate grass. She wasn't as scared as before. She ran around them, curiously observing his pets. While I want to find Li who was taking turns guarding. The Li, today tell the tribesmen to build more straw huts on the mountain opposite Tuga Mountain. Disguise it as a residential area. Just quantity matters. Whether they're livable or not isn't important. When the time comes, light them up. We must let the people at the foot of the mountain clearly see a sea of fire. Billy scratched his head, acknowledged the order, then ran off to find people to work. Just like that, under Han Feng's command, everyone set up the formation, preparing to catch the enemy in one fell swoop. Meanwhile, to the northeast of the fire tribe, over 10 kilometers away, Yufu was also leading nearly 100 people moving. Among these nearly 100 people, over 50 were tribesmen of the wandering tribe. The remaining 30 were savages gathered from all over. Just collected 6 more people, an old woman and 5 children, all people abandoned by their tribes. A man named Yi suddenly wondered, Big brother, are we heading towards the 2 tribe? Wasn't their tribe destroyed by the fire tribe? Not necessarily all dead. I once saw traces of people living there. Everyone continued walking for another hour, finally arriving at the foot of a cliff. This place had been burned to the ground. The ground was bumpy with burial mounds. A quick glance showed at least 40 or 50 of them. And amidst the burial mounds, there was a freshly dug grave. 2 branches were stuck in front of it. Hanging on them were 2 fresh human heads. In front of the other graves, there were similar branches. Human heads hung on them too. Xue Tu counted. There were 9 heads in total. Only one was dried out. Unknown how long it had been hanging there. See? I told you there were survivors. Xue Tu pointed at the graveyard, speaking to his younger brother, then turned to the empty clearing. Xue Tu, come out. I know you're still alive. Just as he finished speaking, a rustling sound came from a nearby tree. Then a muscular man, nearly 1.85 meters tall, suddenly jumped down from the tree. This man was wrapped in a tiger skin. A scar over a foot long ran across his chest. Long hair covered his face, looking like a madman. Only the 2-meter-long wooden staff in his hand didn't match his savage appearance. It was a weapon passed down through generations of 2 tribe chiefs. What do you want with me? I am alone now. I have nothing to trade with you. The man named Xue Tu spoke in a hoarse voice. But you still have yourself. There's a tribe looking for people. You are young, living alone, with no one to rely on. Why not find a tribe to join? No, I won't go anywhere. My wife and children, my tribesmen lie here. I must kill everyone in the fire tribe to avenge them. Xue Tu didn't give up, continuing to persuade Xue Tu. But you're only one person. No matter how skilled you are, you can only kill a few people. That tribe has hundreds of people. Moreover, their weapons are very powerful. You can join them first. If you can convince them to join you in revenge, only then can you destroy the fire tribe. Hearing this, Xue Tu also realized Xue Tu's words made sense. After all, he was just an assassin. If he wanted to wipe out a tribe, he needed a lot of people. He immediately asked Xue Tu, where is that tribe of hundreds? How powerful are their weapons? Can they defeat the fire tribe's fire axes? I won't tell you where. If you want to go, you can only follow me. I still have to take you guys there to trade for goods. Xue Tu spoke bluntly, not minding Xue Tu's hesitation. And Xue Tu had no reaction either. He knew Xue Tu wouldn't seek him out for no reason. This wandering tribe never acts without a profit motive. Then, Xue Tu hyped up the Han tribe. From bows and arrows to spears. From pottery to white salt. Xue Tu was stunned listening to it. Thinking for a while, his attitude began to waver. Even if I want to go, I have to wait until I bring my tribesmen back before going. I can't abandon them. Xue Tu looked at Xue Tu's determination, gritting his teeth in frustration, thinking, then what's the point of talking? He shouted a sentence, then turned and left. I have a deadline for collecting people. If you want to go, hurry up. Walking a few steps, he turned his head back again, smiling. But when you bring your tribesmen back, you can also join my wandering tribe. Find another woman. Live a new life. It's better than being a savage here. Watching the wandering tribe leave, Xue Tu stood silently, clenching his fists. Although he really wanted to join the tribe Xue Tu mentioned, he still couldn't abandon his tribesmen. Glancing at the 2 fresh human heads, he silently picked up his staff, starting a new hunt. Soon, he arrived at the mass grave, where the fire tribe dumped bodies, found a tree, climbed up, observing the fire tribe from above. Very quickly, he noticed something unusual. The fire tribe was gathering warriors, estimated to be over 260 men. Each person also carried several bundles of stone sticks wrapped in fire rat skin. The captured women and children were all herded into a cave. Nearly 50 adult men guarded the cave entrance. Xue Tu knew exactly what the fire tribe was planning. Another tribe was about to get unlucky. Thinking for a moment, Xue Tu decided to follow the fire tribe, both to find an opportunity to kill a few and avenge his tribesmen, and to see who the fire tribe's target was. When they were close to the destination, he would take a detour, arrive before the fire tribe, warn the tribe about to be attacked, ruining the fire tribe's plan. Lien led the army, aggressively marching forward, completely unaware that an assassin who hated him to the bone was quietly following behind, plotting his miserable failure. Just like that, filled with hatred, Xue Tu followed the fire tribe for several days, until they were only 1 day's journey from Tuga Mountain. He couldn't hold back anymore. Damn it, who exactly does the fire tribe want to attack? Why go so far? Just take revenge first. At midnight, Xue Tu hid in the forest, finally waiting for a target. Still the simplest assassination method. The crudest way. 2 guys peeing in the woods. Had their skulls crushed by the wooden staff before they could scream. Xue Tu finished the job, still following the old method, quickly escaping. Soon, the guards arrived, resulting in seeing 2 headless corpses again. Lian was furious. That guy dared to follow him all the way here. It was simply too insulting. He immediately woke everyone up, in the middle of the night, holding torches to hunt down that assassin. But Xue Tu had already fled far away. How could he let them find him? The warriors returned empty-handed, making Lian even angrier. The guard who reported to him was also unlucky, becoming the target of his rage. Beaten half to death, finally burned alive. Actually, normally even if angry, Lian wouldn't lose his temper like this. It was just that he didn't expect the Han tribe to be so far away, walking for so many days and still not arriving. He had long lost all patience. He roared, "How much further is it?" A subordinate trembled and said, "Chief, we're almost there. Only 1 day's journey left. There's a hillside there." I didn't dare get too close, afraid of being discovered. Hearing this, Lian gritted his teeth and repeated, "Only 1 day left. Only 1 day left." Meanwhile, on the other side, Han Feng wasn't idle either. At this moment, he was leading the tribesmen at Tuga Mountain, testing the range of bows and arrows. He stood at the position designated for the archer team, drew the bow tight, shot an arrow toward the hillside. The arrow stuck into the ground at a distance of 350 meters. Xiao Dai stood by curiously watching. She didn't know what he was doing. Han Feng expects the to have. Wait for the enemy to charge up, crossing the arrow range marker. Then we can start attacking. After that, he shot a few more arrows, forming a straight line. That was the range marker line. Next, Xue led people, carrying bronze shovels and straw dummies painted with white lime, planting them in the ground where the arrows landed. Ordinary people would only think it was some strange custom. They wouldn't suspect these were markers. By noon, everyone on Tuga Mountain was ready. Han Feng didn't deploy cavalry. Instead, he had everyone who knew how to shoot dismount, participating in infantry combat. If only we had bows suitable for shooting from horseback, like composite bows or crossbows. Then we wouldn't have to worry about a lack of archers. Just then, Xue Tu, who had been following the fire tribe, noticed something unusual. The fire tribe normally only ate 2 meals, morning and evening. Today, they stopped for lunch. Xue Tu realized they might have arrived. The fire tribe was about to attack. He immediately circled around, bypassing the front of the fire tribe to warn the tribe about to be attacked. He followed the marks, running for 4 hours straight, finally seeing the row of white straw dummies. And on the peak of Tuga Mountain, Han Feng and everyone were leisurely eating lunch. Suddenly a sentry reported, "Someone has come to report news." Han Feng was very surprised. This was unexpected, but he still led people to the edge of the mountain to meet Xue Tu. After asking thoroughly, Han Feng agreed to let him up the mountain, but also secretly instructed the tribesmen to guard against him. Xue Tu advised him to run. The fire tribe outnumbered the Han tribe 3-1. He didn't want the Han tribe to be destroyed like his own, but Han Feng firmly said he wouldn't run, telling Xue Tu to stay and watch the show. Although Han Feng was just a child, his domineering aura convinced Xue Tu. He obediently stayed. Over an hour later, the sun gradually set. The fire tribe piled wood at the foot of the mountain, preparing to light the signal fire. Seeing this, Han Feng wasn't afraid, but extremely excited. Finally, this moment had arrived. At this moment, the fire tribe was piling wood at the foot of the mountain, preparing to light the signal fire. Seeing this, Han Feng wasn't afraid, calmly ordering the tribesmen to light the fire. Over a dozen tribesmen holding torches quickly set fire to hundreds of straw huts. In an instant, the fire blazed furiously. Lian saw the fierce fire on the mountain peak. Thinking he had succeeded, he screamed in excitement, ordering the tribesmen to charge and attack, shouting, "White salt, pottery, and women all belong to us." Immediately, everyone in the fire tribe carried a torch and 2 long spears, charging to attack. Soon, they reached the position 50 meters from the straw dummies. Lian even shouted, ordering the tribesmen to burn the Han tribe's totems, which were actually those straw dummies. The straw dummies were quickly consumed by the burning stone axes, becoming clearer range markers. But they didn't know. This was seeking their own death. Han Feng saw the fire tribe rush to within 10 meters of the straw dummies. He immediately ordered the tribesmen to draw their bows and fire. Before the first wave of arrows even hit the ground, he ordered 3 more consecutive waves. At a distance of 350 meters, arrows dense as locusts flew straight toward the fire tribe. Many in the fire tribe were shirtless, without shields. Just the first wave of 115 arrows caused over 50 casualties. Some were hit by 2 or 3 arrows, dying on the spot. Some were hit in the arm, hit in the leg, instantly losing combat ability. They immediately panicked. Some thought, because they burned the Han tribe's totems, they were being punished by the gods. Li Yin wanted to order the tribesmen to continue attacking. But the 115 arrows of the second wave arrived. The warriors who had just helped each other up were hit again. Those injured in the arm or leg before were hit again. This time they couldn't stand up. Some lucky ones avoided the first wave. When running to help the injured, they were also hit. When the third wave of arrows arrived, the fire tribe became even more panicked. They wanted to run, but how could Han Feng let them escape? He immediately ordered the tribesmen to fire 5 consecutive waves. The tribesmen heard this, immediately excited, firing arrows with all their might. The army of 260 men of the fire tribe, after several waves of arrow rain, only had less than 50 able-bodied warriors left and less than 30 injured. They rolled and crawled, running away from the straw dummies. Li Yin was hit by an arrow in the femoral artery, also running with the remnants. The arrow stuck in his thigh made him unable to run fast. Li Yin was also a cold-blooded man. He gritted his teeth, yanking the arrow out hard. But the barb of the arrow severed the main artery. Limping a few steps, he collapsed to the ground, stopped breathing. Meanwhile, Han Feng led the tribesmen, chasing and shooting arrows, until nearly all the fleeing enemies were killed. Only then did they stop. Xue Tu followed Han Feng, looking at the corpses strewn about and arrows stuck everywhere. He was astonished. He didn't expect these short arrows to be so deadly. Han Feng ordered the tribesmen to clean up the battlefield, retrieve the arrows, pile the corpses in one place. They will be buried tomorrow. Xue Tu picked up a few arrows, telling Han Feng he wanted to join the Han tribe. Han Feng didn't answer directly. The story Xue Tu told about the fire tribe, he didn't fully trust yet. He had to confirm it with the fire tribe teenagers. Only then could he decide. Xue Tu heard that Han Feng still kept survivors from the fire tribe. He was overjoyed. His hope of joining the Han tribe was rekindled. Soon, Xue came to Han Feng's side, reporting the battlefield cleanup results. A total of 248 corpses. Still a few dozen arrows missing. It was too dark, hard to find. Han Feng waved his hand, ordering everyone to withdraw. The rest will be dealt with tomorrow. At this time, Xiao Dai was anxiously waiting for him on the mountaintop. Earlier, when everyone chased the enemy, he didn't let her follow. Only when she saw him leading the people back safely did she feel relieved. After a tense battle and cleaning the battlefield, the tribesmen were all very tired. Receiving Han Feng's order, everyone went back to rest. He also called Xue over, telling him to get food for the 30 teenagers. Feed them well. Tomorrow they would be made to dig graves for their own tribesmen. Early the next morning, the teenagers, having eaten a full meal for the first time in days, started working. Seeing that the attackers of the Han tribe had all died here, they were both shocked and regretful. If only they hadn't listened to Li Yin and become spies. When the pits were dug, Han Feng walked up to them. You are all people the Han tribe exchanged white salt for. Moreover, at the spring festival, you all got wives. You should have lived peacefully in the Han tribe. Now, the fire tribe has been destroyed. Do you want to die with your tribesmen in these pits? Or join the Han tribe, live with your wives and children, have kids, and live a peaceful life? Choose for yourselves. Hearing this, the teenagers didn't need to think, immediately crying and begging to join the Han tribe. Since you want to live, then I'll ask you a few questions. How many people does the fire tribe have? Where is the settlement? How many women and children? The teenagers immediately scrambled to tell everything they knew, afraid that being slow would mean death. Han Feng then learned the fire tribe still had about 50 men left. The rest were women and children, totaling over 1,000 people. He decided to bring those women and children back. Although it would be a burden, he couldn't watch those children die. After that, Everyone spent the morning packing up, walked for half a day. Finally, by evening, they returned to the Han tribe settlement. The Han tribe had changed a lot. The newly arrived tribesmen lived in pointed straw huts outside the walls. There was a simple fence outside. In the evening, all tribesmen ate together. The Shu reported the situation to Han Feng, saying during this time, everyone lived normally. The new tribesmen were also finding jobs they were good at. People from the Mushroom tribe and Fern tribe joined the gathering team. Found some new edible plants and a dark red dye. Han Feng named this plant red face grass, thinking it could be used to dye cloth later. Teenagers from the Four tribe and Clam tribe joined the fishing team, catching lots of fish every day. Teenagers from the Chisel tribe and Thorn tribe liked carpentry. When they learned the wheelbarrows were invented by Han Feng, they immediately became his fanatical fans. The Cave tribe and Tooth tribe also found jobs they loved. The Cave tribe joined the pottery team. The Tooth tribe learned metallurgy. The Chow tribe found a new ingredient to make sugar. It was the root and tuber of the man-eating plant, which could be processed into brown sugar. Teenagers from other tribes joined the hunting team. But Han Feng thought, we can't rely on hunting forever. With so many people in the Han tribe, the animals in the nearby forest would sooner or later be eaten to extinction. In the future, we still have to try to catch live herbivores to raise. Moreover, domestic rabbits reproduce very quickly. Now, there were over 500 of them. Furthermore, this year, the number of rabbits would increase exponentially. By then, there would be no worry about a lack of meat. Hearing the Shu's report, Han Feng summoned the leaders of the Han tribe to discuss the next development plan. Xue Tu spoke first. The number of new tribesmen is too large. Now the caves aren't enough for living space. Fires can't be lit in straw huts. If this goes on, I'm afraid many won't survive. Through the winter, the elder also chimed in. Food and animal skins for winter must also be stockpiled quickly. Xue Tu added, I can lead the way. Bring all 1,000+ people of the Fire tribe here. Everyone frowned upon hearing this. There were already many people. Adding another 1,000. By then, even food would have to be fought over. But Han Feng just smiled and said, those people are mostly children. Although they can't do much, they don't eat much food either. As long as everyone works hard, we can feed them. Then, he presented the next plan in detail. First, build more barns. Expand the scale of animal husbandry. Organize more people to fish. The hunting team must reduce manpower. Mainly use traps for hunting. Just send a few people to check every day. The remaining manpower goes to chop trees. Dig clay, make bricks. Prepare for future house building. Dig more ditches to irrigate rice fields. Plant more wet rice. The carpentry team and metallurgy team now focus on making tools. Make more iron axes and bronze shovels. Early the next morning, Han Feng gathered 100 people, preparing to attack the Fire tribe. To avoid the children resisting too fiercely, he specially arranged 10 women who knew archery in the team. These people were led by the Shu. Shuya acted as deputy. Xue Tu was in charge of leading the way. Finally, 10 elks were added, so that in case of emergency, they could ride the deer back to report. Everyone must return before the next full moon. The group immediately started preparing, soon riding deer and setting off. Han Feng continued assigning tasks to others. The gathering team went to collect more vines, used for weaving baskets, preparing for digging clay, building walls. The teenagers of the Cave tribe went to dig fish ponds by the river. Later, uneaten fresh fish could be released into the pond. Stored. There was only one brick kiln now. Efficiency was too low, so 2 more had to be built. Appointed to Chue and Mu Tong as captains of the metallurgy and carpentry teams. The 2 coordinated with each other, first making tools, then making wheelbarrows. Xiao Dai saw everyone had tasks. She ran to ask Han Feng what she should do next. He thought for a moment, then told her to go plant hemp. Wait for the hemp to grow, then strip the fibers. Try to expand the planting area this year. Xiao Dai only thought about weaving cloth, but now the hemp hadn't grown yet. So she had to follow his words. When all tasks were assigned, he started working on the most important thing. Han Feng called the elder and Xue Tu privately, talking to them about household registration and naming. The 2 old men listened blankly, not understanding what he was saying. Han Feng had to patiently explain. Household registration is so that every adult man has a separate family, including wife and children. Later, Everyone must have a surname and a given name. A surname represents a tribe or a clan. People with the same surname must wait 6 generations before intermarrying. Now, the tribesmen mostly come from different tribes, so they can find wives within the tribe, as long as the surnames are different. He also emphasized, it's not forcing everyone to live separately, but for every man to have his own house, living with his wife and children. Only then can the purity of bloodlines and clans be ensured. And when sons grow up, they must move out, find a wife, start a family, must have the responsibility to support parents. Just like when they were small, parents raised them. In addition, he set a rule. After starting a family, both men and women are not allowed to commit adultery. Anyone who violates this will be demoted to a slave for life. Men go to dig mines. Women specialize in bearing children. That night, the 3 of them announced this to all tribesmen. Although everyone didn't quite understand, they believed that whatever Han Feng said was right. The household registration was left to the elder to handle. Naming was decided by him personally. Surnames were given by him. Given names used old names, adding the surname. After that, he and Xue started preparing for city building, surveying the land, driving stakes, explaining the construction plan to Xue while working. Each house has a length and width of 10 meters, divided into 3 rooms. 1 room for adults, 1 room for children. The middle space is for cooking, heating. A small shed can also be built to store firewood, dry grass, and tools. In addition, a dry latrine must be dug. Building brick houses requires digging foundations, ramming the foundation solid, only then using bricks and mortar to build walls, tiling the roof, plastering mortar, laying tiles. During the lunch break, Xiao Hadai brought a white string, excitedly saying this was string made from rabbit fur. Hearing this, Han Feng was very surprised, asking where the rabbit fur came from. Xiao Dai said the rabbits bit the fur off their bellies themselves. Han Feng heard this, hurriedly saying that was the fur the mother rabbit used to make a nest for baby rabbits. But luckily it was warm now. The baby rabbits should be fine. Xiao Dai mumbled about wanting to weave cloth, tried plucking alpaca fur, but got spit on by the alpaca. Han Feng heard this, burst out laughing, promised that when the scissors were done, he would cut alpaca wool for her to weave. After that, he spent 3 days meticulously making a pair of scissors. The scissors were made from 2 triangular blades, 1 flat side, 1 convex side, with a round hole in the middle for fixing. The handles were 2 long bronze bars. After casting, filing, using bronze rivets to attach the 2 blades together, sharpening the blades, Xiao Dai held the scissors, jumping for joy, running off to shear the alpacas. Han Feng smiled, turning to check the 2 newly built brick kilns. This was the foundation for all subsequent work. To build houses, there must be bricks, and the earth dug up from digging the canal was indispensable raw material for making bricks. Therefore, to quickly build houses, he had urged the progress of these 2 tasks. Fortunately, after everyone's efforts for a few days, the 2 new brick kilns were completed, and the canal digging was also proceeding smoothly. The newly arrived tribesmen had lived in the Han tribe for nearly half a month. They witnessed the tribe changing day by day, and all these changes were brought by the chief. They couldn't help but regard him as a god. At the same time, they were also very proud to have become people of the Han tribe. One must know, no matter which tribe they were in before, they could never have their own pottery, eat their fill every meal. Most importantly, here there was unlimited white salt. This was something they didn't dare think of before. As for Han Feng, to escape these trivial tasks, he was instructing a few smart people in the tribe on how to build houses. As long as they learned, he would have more time to do other things. At the same time, Xue led 100 people of the expedition team quietly to the mass grave, observing the fire tribe situation from afar. At this moment, it was pitch black. The 50 men of the fire tribe still didn't know their main army had been completely wiped out, and the few who escaped had disappeared without a trace. The women and children of the fire tribe were held in a natural cave. The cave entrance was narrow, only enough for 2 people to walk side by side. Only 5 men were guarding the entrance. With no vigilance whatsoever, they lit a fire in front of the cave, sitting around the fire, eating fire rat meat for a late-night snack. The remaining 45 men were busy making babies in huts or caves. All sorts of sounds came from inside. After careful observation, Xue and everyone began to act. the Xue thought. It was too dark to use bows and arrows conveniently. So he ordered Xue to lead 10 men and 10 women, each holding a bow, quietly approaching the foot of the mountain, targeting the guards at the cave entrance. Estimating the cave entrance was less than 10 meters away. 20 bows firing 3 rounds would be enough. After that, they would lead the charge. Xue nodded in agreement. Xue Tu followed the Xue, leading the rest, divided into groups of 2, entering the huts and caves to kill. Anyway, it was pitch black inside. Those people were sleeping soundly. Using bows wasn't convenient. Better to just rush in and kill them by surprise. The Xue quietly sneaked into a hut. A fire tribe man was lying on top of a woman. The Xue gently pulled the bronze knife from his waist. Standing behind him, the woman saw the Xue, scared stiff, daring not to move, daring not to even breathe loudly. The man felt something unusual. Just as he turned his head, the Xue swung his axe down, smashing his skull. Blood and brains splattered onto the woman. But the man hadn't died completely yet. His head was stuck on the axe blade. The Xue pulled hard, dragging the whole body, then stepped on his face, pulled the axe out, turned to check on the others. Xue Tu in another straw hut was even cleaner. Rushed in, bam, smashed the man's skull, from entering to the moment the guy died. Less than 3 seconds. The woman pinned under the corpse didn't even understand what was happening. Xue Tu had already walked out. However, in another straw hut, a Han tribe teenager had just crawled in when the man inside dodged. He was pinned down by the man, strangled. Fortunately, the woman inside helped, kicking the man. The teenager's companion also arrived in time. A spear thrust straight into the man's chest. Fresh blood sprayed out. During the fight, some women screamed in fear. Some fire tribe men, hearing the screams, grabbed weapons to resist. Both sides fought. There were casualties on both sides. Some teenagers, due to the cramped space in the grass huts, couldn't use long spears and got slashed by stone axes, seriously injured and falling to the ground. Luckily, the Xue arrived in time to save him. The guards halfway up the mountain heard the commotion. Still discussing it, Xue had already led 20 archers to a position about 10 meters away. He waved his hand, signaling everyone to stand in an arc, drawing bows and knocking arrows. Then shouted. The sound of bowstrings and arrows cutting through the air rang out. 21 arrows flew straight toward the 5 people standing at the cave entrance. Under the firelight, the 5 were completely exposed. In an instant, 3 were hit, dying on the spot. 1 was hit in the arm. 1 was lucky not to be hit because he was shielded by his companion's body. The 1 hit in the arm just cried out. With a second wave of arrows arrived. The remaining 2 were turned into porcupines by the arrows. Xue still wasn't reassured. Ordered 2 more waves fired, turning the corpses into pincushions, then led the men to charge up. At this time, there was no one left to resist above. Xue successfully captured the cave entrance. He raised a torch, signaling the people at the foot of the mountain. The battle at the foot of the mountain ended quickly. The Xue called everyone to drag the corpses out to count. 45 fire tribe men were all killed. On the Xue side, 1 dead, 1 seriously injured, 2 lightly injured. The seriously injured one was a former fire tribe prisoner. His collarbone was broken, flesh torn open, probably wouldn't survive. This battle cost 2 lives, killed 50 people, gained over 1,000 women and children. At this time, the women in the cave came out, gathered together. A teenager captured by the fire tribe spoke to them. I was captured by the fire tribe. Now I brought people to save everyone. The fire chief went to attack the Han tribe and was defeated. They're all dead. You can follow us to the Han tribe. Hearing this, a sharp-eyed woman recognized the teenager. Asking if it was true, the teenager continued. It's true. The fire tribe has no men left. The cave has also been taken by us. You could bring your children out. Hearing they could bring their children out, the women ran into the cave. Han tribe people followed. Only the injured and the Xue stayed behind. The Xue told the injured man's teammate to go into the cave, while he knelt beside the injured man, asking if he had any last words. The injured man cried, saying he didn't want to die. He said his tribe was destroyed by the fire tribe. He was lucky to survive, joined the Han tribe, and even got a wife. Wanted to live a peaceful life. The Xue Sigid patted his shoulder, said he would take care of his wife, then snapped his neck to give him a painless death. Then he turned and walked toward the cave. In the cave, halfway up the mountain, Some women who hadn't slept heard the noise and planned to escape. But as soon as they poked their heads out, they saw the guard shot dead. Then were scared to death by 2 waves of arrow rain. Sitting on the ground, a pregnant woman planned to run, but another woman holding a child, with a slightly protruding belly, said, "Running is useless. We are pregnant and have small children. Being savages, we can't feed ourselves." The women heard this and were stunned, squatting on the ground crying. They knew they needed men. Pregnant women were very weak, unable to protect themselves. The female archers walked up from the foot of the mountain. They were specially arranged by Han Feng. They arrived at the cave entrance, kicked the corpses, pulled out arrows and gathered them. Usable arrows were put into quivers. Broken arrows were brought back for repair. The women in the cave stared wide-eyed, seeing the attackers were women and had won. The women cleaning the battlefield smiled at those in the cave. This smile made the pregnant women feel goodwill. A woman holding a child stood up. Voice trembling, asked the female archers, "Which tribe are you from? Can you take me with you? I know how to twist rope, cure skins. I'm pregnant now and can't gather. But after giving birth, I can do anything. Can you take me?" She felt a tribe with female warriors must be very strong, able to resist attacks from many tribes. Moreover, the status of women in this tribe must not be low. Warriors could also be hunters. No problem. Such a tribe could protect her, so she wanted to join. The women gathering arrows didn't understand what she said, just smiled, making way for them to go out. The woman holding the child hurriedly thanked them, then held her belly, walking out. Other women followed. Dozens of women ran up from the foot of the mountain, followed by Han tribe warriors. A woman excitedly shouted, "Sisters, we are free. Those teenagers brought people to save us." The fire chief was killed by the Han tribe. The men at the foot of the mountain were also wiped out. The fire tribe has no men left. "We can join the Han tribe." The Xue spoke to a teenager who was previously captured by the fire tribe. "Go tell those women. We will take them to the Han tribe. We won't imprison them. There is food for them. They will work, live just like the women of the tribe. We won't kill the children. Tell them we leave tomorrow." The teenager nodded in agreement, then started looking for his relatives. Other teenagers were also looking for their families. After finding them, they hugged and cried, then spread the word in the crowd, calling for women to join the Han tribe. The women scrambled to ask about the Han tribe situation, like how many men there were. Was there enough food? What work did they do daily? Did they bully women? When they learned the Han tribe could make many water containers, had endless white salt, knew animal husbandry, and could even use fierce beasts for work. Women weren't imprisoned for breeding. Everyone had their own job. They immediately agreed to join, even knowing the journey would take 7 days. They were still determined to go. Xue walked up to the Xue. "Captain, so many people. How would we bring them?" The Xue looked at the pregnant women and children, frowning. "Clean up first and see. See if there's anything we can take. Find animal skins, food, or baskets, or anything that can hold things. If not, we'll carry baskets. Carry the children. If only we had a few ox carts." Sudianadith. There was no other way. Everyone ransacked the settlement, took all the livestock, usable dried meat, and burned all the fire tribe's fire rats. Making dried meat. Early the next morning, the Xue used the dismantled straw huts to cremate the 2 fallen teenagers, then led over 1,200 women and children on the road. Among these over 1,200 people, 470 were adult women. Nearly 300 were pregnant. The rest were children. Everyone used animal skins to wrap the children, then used ropes, vines to tie them to their bodies, or carried them directly. Han tribe warriors also helped carry children. The elts were loaded with baskets of dried meat, livestock, reducing the burden. The group began the journey back to the Han tribe. Behind them, the fire tribe settlement was engulfed in a sea of fire. Meanwhile, at the Han tribe, at dawn, Dudley led 20 people assigned by Han Feng. Setting off, 10 people rowed wooden boats upstream. Dudley led the remaining 10 riding elks, driving ox carts across the bridge. Going by land, the carts were loaded with mining tools, stone rollers for road making, and wooden buckets for water. The small bridge, 3 meters wide, was very sturdy. Ox carts loaded with goods could still cross. Dudley led everyone to find a flat path, wide, marking the way for the oxen to pull the stone rollers over, rolling back and forth many times, filling holes with stones. covering with earth, then rolling again. However, this dirt road was hard to maintain. Just one heavy rain could turn it into a mud road. They followed the east bank of the river north, not going toward the old Black Rat tribe settlement because it was abandoned, but the Chestnut tribe, old neighbors of the Black Rat tribe, today planned to go to the Black Rat tribe. Last year, the Chestnut tribe traded clay pots with the Black Rat tribe, learned how to cook, and became obsessed with new food. But their clay pots weren't enough, so Chief Mao Lu led a hunting team and a few girls to trade for more pots. They walked all day, arriving at the old Black Rat tribe settlement by evening. But the scene before them made their scalps tingle. What happened here? At this time, Chief Mao Lu, of the Chestnut tribe, led a hunting team and a few girls to the former living area of the Black Rat tribe, intending to trade for more clay pots. But the scene before them made his scalp tingle. What exactly happened here? Only seeing this place, black charcoal everywhere, and charred human bones. Mao Lu picked up a human bone, thinking for a long time, even if attacked by enemies, they definitely couldn't all be dead. Otherwise, who helped them burn the bodies? So the Black Rat tribe must have moved elsewhere after being attacked. Thinking of this, Mao Lu led his tribesmen to find the Black Rat tribe's new home, spending quite some effort, finally discovering traces of the Han tribe on the small hillside north of the Black Rat tribe. That evening at sunset, the sunset glow turned the sky red. To the west of the Black Rat tribe settlement, there were 3 very visible columns of smoke. That was smoke rising from the 3 brick kilns the Han tribe built by the river. Mao Lu remembered the previous chief saying, from the Black Rat tribe heading towards the setting sun, walking one day would reach a small river. The Black Rat tribe moved. Probably wouldn't go too far. Very likely right by the river. So he decided to rest on the spot for a night. The next morning, sent a warrior back to the tribe to report, saying the Black Rat tribe had moved. It would take another 2 days to return, while he led the others west, looking for the Black Rat tribe. At the same time, Dali hid the small boats by the river, then led people into the dark forest. Xue led an army of over 1,000 people, struggling toward the Han tribe. Back at the Han tribe, Han Feng was busy building houses, just as he was instructing tribesmen on how to build walls. Mao Lu led his team to the riverbank. As soon as they reached the river, they saw the Han tribe's fishing team pulling nets on the other side. Seeing this, the women thought they were enemies, immediately holding bronze spears, blocking the bridgehead, mouths shouting constantly. Enemies! Hearing the shouting, people digging the canal nearby immediately shouldered bronze shovels, running toward the bridgehead. In less than 2 minutes, over 500 people gathered at the bridgehead. Mao Lu saw so many people, scared witless, turning to run. Right now, keeping his life was more important than pottery. But just then, someone in the Han tribe recognized Mao Lu, hurriedly calling out in the local dialect of the Chestnut tribe. Mao Lu heard it, stopped, recognized that person as someone he sold to the Xue months ago. But he was very puzzled. Could this be the Black Rat tribe? Why suddenly so many people? The teenager ran to Mao Lu's side, recounting how he was sold by the Xue to the Han tribe, also saying those clay pots were originally made by the Han tribe. Early this year, the Black Rat tribe was attacked by enemies, so they joined the Han tribe. Now there is no Black Rat tribe anymore. Hearing this, Mao Lu realized. Turns out he'd been ripped off badly. The Xue was truly a cunning fox, but this time he came to trade for clay pots. Now knowing the Han tribe's location, he could trade directly with them. So, he asked the teenager to lead the way. To meet the chief of the Han tribe, when walking to the bridgehead, they met Han Feng, who had heard the news and arrived. The teenager introduced him. This is the chief of the Chestnut tribe. Came to trade for pottery. Han Feng heard this. Spirits lifted immediately. My 50-meter broadsword is already sharpened and hungry. He led them into the tribe. Mao Lu led his people following. When seeing the basins, beautiful pots lined up around the grass houses, he was immediately dazzled. So much stuff. He waved his hand, told tribesmen to bring out pottery and white salt, asking what he wanted to trade. Mao Lu saw a bucket of white salt, curiously asked, "What is this? Can this also be traded for people?" Hearing this, he grabbed a pinch of salt, gave it to him. This is called white salt. Eating it gives you strength to work. Hearing these words, Mao Lu put the whole pinch of salt in his mouth. The next second, his face wrinkled like a monkey biting a chili pepper. But this was a taste he had never tasted before. A while later, getting used to the salty taste, hurriedly asked, "How do you trade this white salt?" He picked up a small bowl, measured a heaping bowl of white salt. Like this trades for one teenager. A little less trades for a girl. Lu was stunned, thinking, truly cutthroat. But this white salt was indeed good stuff. For a moment, he felt conflicted. White salt and pottery. He wanted both, but didn't have many people to trade. So, he hesitantly asked, Chief Han, can I use other things to trade? As long as I can manage, I will definitely find a way. He thought for a moment. It's not impossible. For example, live herbivores, or delicious fruits, or roots, seeds of plants. Lu heard this, immediately overjoyed. Are chestnuts okay? That thing is not only delicious, but can be stored for a long time. Before he could speak, that teenager quickly spoke for him. Chief, our Han tribe also has chestnuts. It makes them even better than the chestnut tribe used to. Hearing this, Lu instantly deflated like a popped balloon. They have chestnuts too. Could he only use people to trade? Seeing this, he frowned, observing the people of the chestnut tribe. Very quickly, the weapons in their hands caught his attention. Each of them held 2 short spears, tipped with bone spearheads. The shafts were made of very straight sticks. He picked one up, examined closely. The whole spear felt very light, felt very smooth to the touch. Although there was no bark, the surface was dark brown. He was startled, hurriedly asked Lu, confirming, did this tree originally have light-colored bark, growing many green fruits on the tree? Inside the fruit are several round seeds. Moreover, its leaves are large, with 3 lobes. Lu heard this, immediately surprised. How do you know? Exactly as you said. It's just that eating the fruit of this tree will poison you to death. Tribesmen have died eating that fruit before. Now he could confirm, this was definitely a tongue tree. He told Lu he needed this type of tree. 1 tree trades for a large bowl of white salt. Lu heard this, very surprised. What did he need this poisonous tree for? Could this thing be more valuable than people? If his tribe could utilize it, could they become as rich as the Han tribe? He realized his thoughts. Told him, in this world, only I know how to use this plant. If this plant falls into the hands of those who don't know, it can only be used as firewood. Being exposed, Lu could only force a smile. So how do we bring them? Chop them down directly? No, I want live saplings. You dig them up directly from the roots. Keep some soil on the roots. Then wrap the roots in soil in animal skin. Bring them here to me. Also, the poisonous fruits on the tree. I need them too. I'll take as many as you have, as long as you bring them. What? You even want those poisonous fruits? So, you need the tree for the poisonous fruits? So what is it for exactly? You don't need to probe. I want the poisonous fruits on that tree. You can choose not to bring them to me. Then I'll leave my people to wipe out your tribe. Then pick the fruits myself. You'd better think carefully whether to oppose my tribe or use those poisonous fruits to trade for these good things. Lu heard this, hurriedly refused. Of course, bring the fruits to trade. But that tree is really hard to transport. Moreover, I brought 8 women this time. Still have to trade for something first. This is indeed a problem. But he quickly called someone to bring 2 bronze axes and 2 bronze shovels. Also gave him a bowl of white salt. Lu had never seen such tools. Frowning, he asked, Chief Han, why give me these? Can't you give a few clay pots? He picked up the bronze shovel and axe, instructing him on how to use them. Look here, with these 2 things, you can quickly dig up many saplings. By then, will you lack pottery and white salt? Lu watched, secretly amazed. Unexpectedly, the Han tribe made even tools so exquisite, but he didn't hesitate. After leaving 8 girls, shouldering the bronze shovels, bronze axes, led the warriors away. When Lu was gone, Shaman Rat asked the question in his heart. Chief, what do you need that tree and poisonous fruit for? He replied, that tree is a tongue tree, also called the oil tongue tree. Although its fruit is inedible, it can be used to press oil. Tongue oil can be used as varnish, painted on wood surfaces, making it waterproof, moisture-proof, slowing down decay. All wooden items in the tribe can use it. Later, every house must paint their furniture. Moreover, the tongue tree is a very beautiful tree. Later it can be planted on both sides of the main roads in the tribe, as roadside greenery. In addition, tongue oil is flammable. Can also be used as kerosene for attacking cities, defending cities, It is a very important strategic resource. At this time, on the east bank of the river, in a small forest, Mao Lu led his people not to return immediately, but found a place to rest. Everyone lit a campfire, eating the dried meat they brought. Mao Lu held the shiny bronze axe, loving it, unable to put it down. Calculating in his heart, the Han tribe has such good things. That's why they can trade for so many people. Although the chestnut tribe can't make such good things, they can use those trees and fruits that few people need to trade for them. By then, learn from the Shu's method. Use the good things traded to trade for people with other tribes. Soon, they will become as powerful as the Han tribe. The warriors around said nothing, just silently nodded. The chief made sense, but they didn't know Mao Lu had one more sentence unsaid. That is, work for the Han tribe first. Wait until the chestnut tribe is strong enough to match the Han tribe. He will lead tribesmen to destroy the Han tribe. By then, all the production techniques for these good things of the Han tribe will belong to him. His chestnut tribe will grow stronger and stronger. Early the next morning, Li led the team, leaving Tuga Mountain, preparing to return to the Han tribe. Sent by Li to guard the wooden boats. The four people weren't idle either. They were all near the small river catching wild rabbits, because the Han tribe needed to add new genetic sources to the rabbit herd being raised, and the army of over 1,000 people led by the Xue was still struggling forward, walking and walking. Finally crossed the Dream Valley area. Children under 5 had to be carried or piggybacked by adults. Most women in the group didn't even have grass shoes. Some had tattered feet. Some who were originally in poor health died on the road. But everyone persisted because they wanted a home, a place to rest peacefully when tired. At the same time, at the Han tribe, he was directing the construction team, building houses for everyone. After a day of laying bricks, the 14 masons were much more skilled. Only took 2 days to build walls 2.5 meters high. Estimated only one more day needed to lay beams, roofing. But the construction of interior items progressed slowly, because the structure of the stove was complex. Especially building a round stove was difficult. Another day passed. At midnight, he was holding Xiao Dai, sleeping soundly in the hut. Suddenly, a warrior guarding outside called him, "Chief, wake up." Suddenly, an army of over 200 people is approaching outside. The leader is riding a deer with antlers. He immediately recognized that was Xue Tu bringing people. Hurriedly got up, went out. When he arrived at the clearing in the residential area, hundreds of torches were already lit there. Ro Bao and Hui Shan also trailed behind him. These two animals hadn't played with him for a long time, because he was busy with construction, and they were busy digging clay. On the clearing in front of the city gate, Xue Tu and Xue Tu were standing there. Beside Xue Tu were 2 children holding his kids. Behind was a crowd, looking like over 200 people. Among them, over 50 were tribesmen of the wandering tribe. Xue Tu bowed respectfully to him. "Chief Han, I brought the people as promised." He observed the newcomers in the dark. "Why bring people at midnight like this?" Xue Tu replied, "We left in the afternoon. It just got dark when we arrived. Everyone wanted to get here early, so we missed dinner. Just arrived now." He knew this guy just wanted to save a dinner, but it wasn't convenient to say it out loud. Had to tell everyone to take them to the caves to rest. Then ordered Xue Tu to prepare food. The group entered the residential area. Greeting their eyes were bonfires everywhere, along with many cows and 4-legged beasts with long noses they had never seen before. There were also countless stone basins, clay pots. The newcomers whispered amongst themselves, but didn't seem too surprised, because Xue Tu had told them about the Han tribe situation. By the fire, warriors brought clay pots, scooped rice, scooped water, lifia, preparing to cook salted meat. Among them were several women brought back by Xue Tu from near Cliff Mountain. An older girl excitedly said to a blind woman, "Grandma, they're giving us meat to eat. They probably won't chase us away." The woman hurriedly instructed, "We've arrived at a good place. Tell your sisters to be obedient. Don't anger the chief." The little girl obediently agreed, eyes glued to the clay pot, swallowing saliva. In another corner, he and Xue Tu were sitting by the fire, eating chili roast meat. Xue Tu looked around, suddenly asked, "Chief Han, where's the ox cart? I had people take it to transport goods. We only have one. If you didn't come, we couldn't leave it idle. If you need it urgently, it will be back in 3 or 4 days. If not urgent, I'll have someone make one for you. Definitely finish before the next full moon." Fu thought for a moment, then said, "Then I want a new one. Must be like the last one." He nodded in agreement. "So in these few days, do you plan to stay here or go somewhere?" Fu intended to stay and rest. But his tribe had dozens of people. Staying here meant eating for free. He hurriedly said, "We will take care of our own food." Night fell. A new day began. The canal digging team, with the efforts of hundreds of people and livestock, had dug a ditch nearly 750 meters long, nearly 1 meter deep. House construction was also progressing smoothly. Expected to build to the roof within the day. Then erect beams. Roofing. Wait until this group of masons became skilled. The construction team could be expanded. Early morning, Fu came to find him. "Chief Han, while waiting for the ox cart, I want to find something to do these days. Trade for some pottery and white salt from the tribe." He thought for a moment, then told him to continue the previous work. Help clear land to plant hemp. "First, let's go see the savages brought last night. Then someone will lead you to clear wasteland. Inside the walled area. In front of the cave entrance, 153 savages stood crookedly. Everyone had disheveled hair. Han Feng swept his sharp gaze over everyone. None of the savages dared to look him in the eye. Some children were scared, hiding behind adults. Only a teenager with a slightly swollen arm caught his attention. He was staring at him, eyes showing no fear. Instead, hiding a bit of fanaticism. He pointed at him. Asked Fu, "Who is this person? What happened to his arm?" Fu sighed. "This guy is stubborn. His name is E. His arm was injured fighting his chief in the spring." Hearing this, Han Feng smiled. This teenager is interesting. He was also very curious about Han Feng. He didn't understand why the chief of such a large tribe was a kid. If his arm wasn't injured, he would definitely challenge him. Han Feng walked over, touched his injured shoulder. "Looks like it's dislocated. Still usable." He felt a sharp pain. Hurriedly took a step back. "If you don't want to die, stand still. Don't move." He glared, coldly said. This stunned E. Could this chief also know the healing arts of shaman? But then he didn't dare move anymore. His arm had become like this. As long as there was a chance of recovery, he was willing to try. Han Feng grabbed his wrist with his left hand, pulled hard. Right hand grabbed his elbow. Suddenly applied force to push his arm up. Yi's eyes widened in pain, but his mouth remained clenched tight, not making a sound, but with a cracking sound. The joint was back in place. He felt the pain in his shoulder subside significantly. Then, he tried moving his right arm. Although it still hurt a lot, the arm that couldn't move before could now move again. He immediately supported his right arm with his left hand, hurriedly bowed to him. Attitude extremely respectful. Han Feng patted his shoulder, instructed, best not to move that arm for a few days. Then used hemp rope to fix his arm. Everyone saw he knew how to cure ailments. Those with old illnesses immediately caused a commotion. Chief, help check my grandma's eyes. Her eyes can't see anything." A little girl with an innocent face raised her hand, calling constantly. The person called Grandma hurriedly covered her mouth. "Stop calling. If the chief gets unhappy, he'll chase us away." Han Feng looked at this scene in surprise, then slowly approached the woman. The woman kept her white eyes wide open, looking forward. Eyes like this. No need to check, it's definitely cataracts. Moreover, it seemed to have been there for a long time. He really couldn't cure this disease. The little medical knowledge he knew was limited to what he learned in the special forces in his past life. As for the little girl, silenced by the woman, still staring at him with innocent eyes full of pleading, Han Feng rubbed the little girl's head. "Turn to tell Fu to tell the grandma. It's been too long. Can't be cured anymore. But I won't chase you two away." The woman heard this, thanked him repeatedly. The little girl couldn't hold back her tears either. Looking at this scene, Han Feng felt unbearable, so he checked everyone once. Among these over 150 people, there were over 100 men. The rest were elderly people abandoned by tribes, women who had lost reproductive ability, and some little girls. Among the men, over 70 had old injuries and disabilities. The rest were healthy young men. Next, his arrangement was also very simple. Women all went to expand the hemp fields. Children stayed to watch over the tribe. Disabled men, with inflexible limbs, went to make bricks. Pressing brick molds. That job was stationary. As long as hands weren't disabled, they could do it. Those with arm injuries, inconvenient for heavy work, went to drive ox carts. responsible for transporting bricks between the brick kiln and the residential area. Those without disabilities were used to expand the construction team. After some arrangement, everyone had suitable work to do. Even the little girls took the initiative to cut grass for rabbits. The woman with cataracts went to help Xiao Dai, watching the sheep, incidentally taking care of the little girls near the livestock pen. After settling the savages properly, Yu Fu prepared to lead a few wandering tribemen to hunt. But they didn't dare enter the Han tribe's hunting grounds to compete for prey. With no other choice, Yu Fu came to find him again. He was currently arranging for the carpentry team to make more four-wheeled ox carts. Knowing his intention, he told him to try the other side of the river. That wasn't the Han tribe's hunting ground. Feel free to do whatever. Actually, he had his own calculations. This wandering tribe looked like explorers in his eyes, daring to go to any strange place. He also wanted him to explore the situation on the other side of the river. Sure enough, Yu Fu heard this, immediately excited, leading a few men to set off. While the other women and children of the wandering tribe stayed at the Han tribe, helping clear hemp fields in exchange for salt. The Han tribesmen were all busy with their own work. Today was the last day of wall building, also the most important stage for erecting a roof. Under his direct guidance, everyone finished 4 roofs, just in time for noon, because the roofs were just finished, had to wait for them to dry before putting up beams. So he divided the original 20-man construction team into 4 groups. Each group added 7 newly joined savages, old guiding new, starting from laying the foundation again, building 4 houses simultaneously. The remaining few, with nothing to do, continued digging foundations. At this time, grass for roofing also had to be prepared in advance. He called over a dozen women from the gathering team, taught them how to tie grass, then handed it all over to them. When work was done, it was already afternoon. He took the opportunity to run to the rice fields to check the situation. It had been nearly 50 days since sowing. The whole field was lush green. Before long, this place would turn golden. By then, there would be endless rice to eat. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but be moved. Just then, a call came from the settlement. It was Xiao Dai's voice. He ran quickly to her side. "What's wrong?" Xiao Dai excitedly told him. "The alpaca wool I saved these days is enough to weave a piece of cloth. I want to start right away." Before, he had witnessed the Bian tribe's weaving method. That method not only had low productivity, but the woven cloth also had many holes. No different from a fishing net. Now, the Han tribe had so many people. If still using the old way, I'm afraid we'd have to wait until the year of the monkey and the month of the horse to have enough clothes for everyone. So, he told Xiao Dai to lead a few people to wash the alpaca wool, saying that in a few days he would teach her a way to weave without using hands. Xiao Dai had never heard of such a magical weaving method. She looked at him skeptically, then turned to prepare for her great weaving career. While he racked his brains recalling the structure of the spinning jenny and loom, in his past life, he had seen them in a history museum. Soon, it was completely dark. In the tribe, bonfires flickered. Pots emitted the aroma of fish soup. Yu Fu also led people back from hunting. They brought back a musk deer. It was a beast of the deer family, with 2 long canine teeth in its mouth. Size wasn't very big, but enough for the whole tribe to have a meal. Yu Fu happily sat next to him. "Chief Han, the bridge you guys made is really good. Later I want to cross here often. Is that okay with you?" "Of course it is. Later you can often go to the East Bank. If you meet tribes, you could trade for some good things. When you return, bring them to me to trade." "That's great. Wait until the ox cart is done. We will go to the East Bank to see." He finished speaking, then happily stood up to take his leave. Night deepened. Many tribesmen had fallen into deep sleep, but he was still tossing and turning, thinking about how to spin thread, thinking while drawing on animal skin with charcoal. The next morning, he handed the animal skin to Mu Dui, simultaneously explaining the manufacturing method in detail. Parts and drawings were all available. They just needed to follow them. Usually Mu Dui was quiet. Now couldn't help but be curious. "Chief, what is this used for? Is it also a card?" "Haha, this is not a card. It's a tool for carding wool. It can be used to card wool and hemp fibers. With it, there's no need to use hands to card anymore." The carpenters heard this, all amazed. Carding without hands? Isn't that a divine object? The carpentry group was excited, whispering amongst themselves, respecting the chief even more in their hearts. The carpentry group worked hard all morning, since it was the first time making it. The speed wasn't fast. By noon, only the main frame was done. At noon, everyone only rested for a bit, because the Han tribe population exploded, so now they didn't eat lunch. Probably have to wait until autumn, when the second crop of wet rice is harvested. Then the situation will be better. But exactly how much wet rice the second crop can yield depends on the progress of water conservancy renovation. The team of hundreds digging the canal worked continuously for over a week. The riverbed was over 2.5 meters deep. Compared to when first digging the diversion canal, the speed now was much faster, mainly thanks to having hundreds more people, plus dozens of oxen assisting. After resting for a while, the carpentry group continued working. Just as he was checking the gear set for the last time, a tribesman from the pottery group ran over panting to report. "Chief, our wooden boat has returned." They returned with a boat full of limestone and over a dozen rabbits. See how to arrange it. He stood up abruptly, walked quickly toward the riverbank, arranging work while walking. Take the rabbits to the rabbit hutch. Pull the wooden boat to the diversion canal. Yes, I'll find people to do it right away. That tribesman immediately acknowledged the order. Ran off. 2 minutes later, he was at the bank of the diversion canal. At the same time, the wooden boat just docked. 4 teenagers in charge of steering jumped ashore, greeted him. He patted their shoulders, expressing praise. "Hard work for you guys. Wait until unloading is done. Whatever you want, go find the elder to get it." "Thank you, Chief. Then we'll go get things." He nodded. Then ordered a tribesman to call Lu Zi, incidentally bringing a few people to unload. "Chief, what is this limestone used for?" Lu Zi ran over asking. "Used for building houses. Mixing lime with mud to build houses will be stronger than using clay. Moreover, it's waterproof. Find 2 carts and wheelbarrows. Move all this limestone to near the cliff. Wait until unloading is done. I'll teach you how to build a new kiln." "Yes, Chief." Lu Zi acknowledged the order, then went to work. The tribesman continued to be busy, while he returned to the carpentry group, continuing to assemble the carting machine. Wait until all rollers and transmission mechanisms were assembled. He sat down, tried pedaling the pedal, except for the noise being a bit loud. There were no problems. Just adding some grease would solve it. The carting machine was completed. At this time, it was nearly 5 in the afternoon. Taking advantage of the fact that it wasn't dark yet, he assigned them a new task. Make a stool. After a simple explanation, the carpentry group started working. He told them, "Make this one a bit bigger. Call the table. Later, every house must have tables and chairs." Moody UI was a bit surprised. "Need to make so many chairs." That's right. Every person in the Han tribe must have at least 1 chair. Every house must have at least 1 dining table. 2 low tables to use on the bed. Cold winter, can sit directly on the heated bed to eat, or sit on the bed to write. Can also let women sit on the bed to sew. In short, there are many uses. Wait until the city is built. You guys take your time making them. Finished speaking, Han Feng took the chair, called 2 tribesmen to carry the carting machine, following him to the door of his and Xiao Dai's grass hut. The machine was placed temporarily outdoors. Wait until tomorrow to build a shed and find a place for it later. Xiao Dai washed alpaca wool all day. Seeing him bring back a strange thing, curiously ran over to see. "What is this?" He put the chair down in front of the machine, pulled Xiao Odi over, pressed her to sit on the chair, told her to put her feet on the 2 pedals, pedal back and forth. Xiao Dai exclaimed in surprise. "Wow, this thing turns so fast." He ran quickly to the drying area, took a large bucket of dried alpaca wool and gave it to Xiao Dai. At this moment, he was even more excited than Xiao Dai. This was the first practical test. If successful before long, I'll finally have underwear to wear. Then, he patiently stood behind her, guiding step by step on how to operate. When Xiao Dai saw, from the initial tangled clumps of wool, just pedaling a few times, turned into wool yarn as thick as a finger. One must know to make this amount, before in the Bien tribe, it would take at least several people working continuously for over half a month. She couldn't hold back anymore. Kissed him on the cheek. Now, she completely believed his words. Can weave cloth without using hands. But he knew this wasn't enough. Tomorrow he had to make a spinning machine too. Early the next morning, just as the sky brightened, Xiao Dai got up preparing to work. Since the first test of the carting machine last night, she had been impatiently waiting for daylight. When he woke up, Xiao Dai was already pedaling the carding machine, making it whir. Under the yarn output shaft, placed a small basket woven from vines. Inside was already half full of wool yarn. Seeing her enthusiasm, wholeheartedly wanting to weave cloth, he shook his head, then walked toward the carpentry group. For the next few days, he would have to be a carpenter. Besides the spinning machine, also had to make a loom. Spinning machine. This thing isn't hard to make. In his past life, many old people in the countryside knew how to make it. Casually taking a bicycle rim, old one could be improved into one, based on the experience of making the carding machine yesterday. This time, he designed a single spindle spinning machine, also using a pedal drive mechanism. He also drew the structure diagram on animal skin, handed it to Mu Dui. He guided from his side. Finally, he would assemble it with them. Just as everyone was busy, a woman specializing in catching fish by the river ran over to report. Chief, the chestnut tribe came again. They carried 2 trees. Also a team of women carrying baskets. Let them cross the bridge. Let them cross. Call a squad of warriors. Lead them straight to the central area. Yes, Chief. The woman in the fishing team immediately acknowledged and left. He also put down the work in his hands, turned and walked toward the central area. Trading still had to be handled by him personally. On the way, he also told tribesmen to get a few large wooden buckets to hold the tongue seeds. Before, he had agreed with the chestnut tribe. Every full bucket of tongue seeds could trade for a large bowl of white salt. Maolu waited in the central area for a while. Seeing him coming, hurriedly greeted. He returned the greeting, while walking in front of the chestnut tribesmen, checking the goods they brought. 2 saplings as thick as a wrist, about 4 or 5 meters high. Straight trunk covered with a layer of smooth gray-white bark. Egg-shaped canopy, not pruned at all. Branches full of large, 3-lobed leaves. One glance, and he recognized this as a tongue tree. The women put the baskets on the ground. Inside filled with black-shelled tongue seeds. Each seed was the size of 2 soybeans. Everything was as required. Now we can trade. Hearing him say that, Maolu immediately ordered the tribesmen to pour the tongue seeds into the large wooden buckets. Wait until they poured all the seeds out. The 20 people brought only filled 7.5 buckets. The 8th bucket was only over half full. He glanced over, calculated in his heart. You brought 2 trees and less than 8 buckets of seeds. Could trade for 9.5 bowls of white salt. Do you want to trade all for white salt? Or trade part for pottery? If trading for pottery, 1 bucket of seeds can trade for 1 clay pot. Or 2 bowls. Maolu scratched his head, trying to calculate. Frowning, muttering, we trade for 4 bowls of white salt. 5 clay pots, plus 2 small bowls. Is that okay? Finished speaking, he untied a very long snakeskin bag from his waist, handed it to him, obviously prepared in advance. He nodded, signaling no problem, then told tribesmen to measure salt in front of Maolu. Chief Han, do you still need seeds and trees later? Of course, whether seeds or trees. We need them all. Take as many as you have. Hearing this, Maolu breathed a sigh of relief. That's good. In a few days, I'll bring another trip. Finished speaking, he led the tribesmen hurriedly leaving. As for him, he immediately found 2 positions suitable for planting trees on the planned main road in the central area. Had people dig holes. Planted the trees. Those 8 buckets of tongue seeds were temporarily stored. Now he still didn't have time to make tongue oil. Better to finish the unfinished spinning machine first. At this time, he just returned to the carpentry group, wanting to complete the final assembly of the spinning machine. A tribesman suddenly ran over to report good news. The Xue was only half a day's journey from the Han tribe. It was a warrior who returned first to report. Soon, that warrior was led before him. He knelt on one knee, cupped fists in greeting, reported the entire process of the battle with the Fire tribe. Only that on the way back, among the over 1,200 women and children recruited, 40 or 50 people had died, mostly pregnant women. Hearing this, he frowned slightly, thought for a moment, then told the warrior to go back and convey. Tell the team, no need to rush. Just arrive at the tribe before sunset. The warrior team left. He called the elder and Xue Tu, told the gathering team to build 120 straw huts around the grass house area. Standard of 10 people per hut. The women received the task. Immediately started working. Insufficient materials were replaced by other materials. Busy as bees for a while he continued to perfect the spinning machine. Now only missing some components. Must finish quickly. Wait until the spinning machine was fully assembled. He immediately ordered a team to make more stools and as many bobbins as possible. After that, he carried the spinning machine to Xiao Dai. Xiao Dai was still diligently processing the pile of wool. Seeing him bring the spinning machine, eyes lit up. He smiled, put the machine down. First skillfully twisted a section of yarn, then patiently demonstrated and taught Xiao Dai how to thread and join yarn. Xiao Dai was smarter than average. Learn it once. Watching the spinning machine start working, she jumped for joy. She was impatient to weave wool cloth. Just didn't know when he would finish the loom. He rubbed her head, said, "The loom still has to wait a few days, but guaranteed to be finished before those dozens of alpacas are shorn bald." Just then, the Shu led the people back to the tribe. The Shu, Shuya, and Xue Tu came before him to report. Seeing this, he revealed a satisfied look. Stepped forward 2 steps, helped them up, told them to go rest quickly. Then, he called Shuya over, told him to prepare food for tonight. Tonight must be a grand celebration. Sky gradually darkened. Han tribe set lament. Bonfires burning everywhere. Old and new tribesmen gathered together, eating and talking, sharing a sumptuous dinner. There was fish on the table, and delicious meat soup. Looking at the scene before them, those who came to the Han tribe for the first time shed tears. These were tears of luck for surviving a disaster. They knew they chose the right civilization this time. At this time, Yufu returned from hunting. Found the tribe much livelier. Seemed like many more people than usual. He found it strange. Pulled a tribesman to ask, only to learn that people from the fire tribe had joined the tribe. While surprised, he suddenly saw Xue Tu. Eyes widened. "Why are you here too? Didn't you say you wouldn't come?" Xue Tu put down his bowl, wiped his mouth, said, "Ha, I also followed the fire tribe people to meet them. Their chief helped me take revenge. Now I've joined them. At first I didn't expect. The tribe you mentioned was the Han tribe. If I knew earlier, I would have agreed with you." Yufu heard this, shocked, speechless for a long time. A while later recovered, walked up to him. "Really, congratulations to you guys. The Han tribe population increased again." He smiled and nodded, then chatted with Yufu about the ox cart. "The ox cart is done, but the roof above, you have to find a way to cover it yourselves. Use animal skins or thatch grass." Yufu hurriedly waved his hand. "No problem. Just need the ox cart to be like before. Whether there's a roof or not isn't important." Then, he changed the subject, assigned a task to Yufu. "I know there are many horned herbivores on the east side of the river. If you can discover their location, come back and tell me. Also, if you can get them, I want to buy ox horns, ox tendons, and ox hides. In addition, find edible plants, fruits growing on vines, or large leaf plants growing on the ground, and edible roots growing in the soil. Best to bring back live plants. Dig up the roots, or bring their seeds back." Yufu heard this, looked troubled. "Those plants are easy, but those horned beasts, even if discovered, I can't bring them back. Looks like I can only find their location and report back to you." He patted his shoulder lightly, comforting, "Not necessarily. What if you meet a tribe raising wild beasts? Can think a way to trade with them. Isn't this what your wandering tribe is best at?" Yufu heard this, felt enlightened. "That's right. However, just afraid people won't want our things." He smiled. "You don't need to worry about this. Wait until you leave. I'll give you a bucket of white salt. Consider it payment for helping us farm. The rest you can use to trade. But remember, if you dare take the salt and run, I will definitely send all warriors to deal with your wandering tribe. You know I have enough strength to do that." Yufu heard this, shuddered. "How could that be? Our 2 tribes are friends forever. You just rest assured. With this white salt, I will definitely trade for good things for you. Tomorrow morning, we will set off." He nodded with satisfaction. Early the next morning, just as the sky brightened, Yufu led the tribesmen on the road, heading east to the river. Yufu rode an elk, leading, followed by the ox cart, loaded with several clay pots, clay basins, also 2 large wooden buckets, filled with water and white salt. Noon, the scorching sun baked the earth. At this time, the wet rice had reached the tillering stage. Clumps of lush green rice, growing vigorously every day, from about a foot high, now grown to thigh height. Estimated in another 2 or 3 weeks, it will be taller than a person. After all, this wild rice variety is about 2 meters tall. While he was holding a charcoal pan, drawing the structure and components of the loom on animal skin. He planned to equip every household with a loom later, so the size couldn't be too large. Finally, he decided to make a high-frame loom. After finishing the drawing, he handed the drawing to Mu Dui, still them making components. Finally, he would guide the assembly. Xiao Dai still sat in the shed, starting the daily spinning work. In a shed dedicated to spinning, 2 pregnant women brought back from the fire tribe were accepted by Xiao Dai as apprentices, now following her to learn the trade. Just as the over 30 alpacas in the pen suffered, every one of them was shorn smooth, replaced by rolls of smooth coffee brown wool. But today there was also a big event. After the unremitting efforts of hundreds of people, the canal was completed. Today was the day to clear the flow, leading water into the river. This time he didn't intervene. The work of clearing the river was entirely handled by the teenagers of the clam and jackal tribes. Under the rotation of dozens of people, the section separating the canal and the small river was torn thinner. When only 40 centimeters remained, the top layer of loose soil couldn't withstand the pressure of the river water. Collapsed. The canal has water now, he immediately ordered. From now on, bathing, washing clothes must go to the canal. The diversion canal in the north is only used to provide daily drinking water. Violators will be punished by fasting for a day. The tribesmen didn't understand, but no one dared to question, because they believed the chief had reasons for doing so. Now the canal was completed, but the brick firing work wasn't done yet. The excavated clay had all been made into adobe bricks and tiles, stacked neatly under the shed, waiting to be put into the kiln. But brick firing didn't need so much manpower. The hundreds of people digging the canal before were now idle. They were all waiting for him to arrange new work. He thought for a moment, thinking that the urgent task now was still building houses. Must build enough for 3 residential areas. That is nearly 300 houses. Only then can the housing needs of over 2,000 people in the current tribe be met. Thinking of this, a preliminary plan formed in his mind. That was the plan to build the central area. Before, he always thought about building the central area into a square. But paving the whole thing as a square would be a waste. An area 110 meters long and wide. Area nearly equal to 2 football fields. Completely possible to dedicate a small part to build public facilities. For example, a school and his house. Han Feng planned to build his house inside the school for convenience. Space is limited, so save a bit. Speaking of saving space, modern high-rise buildings gave him some suggestions. His house, at least, must be built 3 stories high. Only then worthy of his status as chief. The plan is simply like this. Square central area. Each side 110 meters long, divided by north-south direction. North is the school. South is the square. Center, intersection. We'll place a flagpole, now called a tribe flag. Later will be the national flag. Han Feng's house will be in the center of the north side of the central area. Expected to be 3 stories or higher, at least level with the teaching building. On both sides of his house are teaching buildings. 2 buildings on each side, totaling 4. Expected to hold 3,600 students. The maximum limit of the entire central area is about 5,000 people. These 4 buildings can fully ensure all children go to school at the same time. Moreover, in the near future, these 4 buildings might not be full, can even leave some floors empty. Make a library, used to store the knowledge he leaves for them. After planning, he started assigning work to the tribesmen who just finished digging the canal. All merged into the construction team, building houses. The 20 people in the original construction team have been directly trained by him, previously divided into 4 groups. 5 people per group, plus some savages brought by Yufu. Each group had over a dozen people. Each time could build 4 houses simultaneously. Now, these 4 groups were subdivided into 20 groups. The original masons were promoted to captains. The core of each group was a captain, and those who had participated in building houses before, those who just finished digging the canal, were added to the groups. Because they had no experience building houses, had to start with simple tasks like digging foundations, building walls. The newly allocated construction team reached a scale of 20 groups, each group no less than 20 people. From masons to mortar mixers, master masons laying bricks, building corners, not missing anyone. Although some were still unskilled, they learned very fast. After all, experience comes from practice. From that day, the Han tribe entered a large-scale construction phase. Residential areas sprang up rapidly at a speed of 20 houses per build. The whole tribe was bustling, busy. Everyone worked hard for common development. In the blink of an eye, a week passed. Rice had grown to his chest, looking from afar like a vast green sea, connected to the wet rice fields. Peanut plants were also growing vigorously, although the situation underground couldn't be seen. The branches and leaves above were extremely lush. As for chili peppers, full of small, pure white flowers. Before long, surely fresh chilies could be eaten. At the same time, Dali at Babeo Mountain wasn't idle. In this week, he had transported 2 loads of limestone back. The boat also carried dozens of rabbits. The lime kiln also produced the first batch of quicklime. Seeing this, he was very happy. Just adding water. This quicklime could turn into slaked lime, used for building houses. Later, painting lime on the gaps between bricks would create a solid waterproof protective layer for the house. Wait until enough lime is accumulated. Can also use it to paint interior walls, making the walls pure white. Like that, the light in the house will definitely be much brighter. Also in these few days, the chestnut tribe on the east bank of the river came to trade twice. For convenience of transport, last time he told them to chop off the tops of the tung trees. This time, the quantity of young tung trees the chestnut tribe transported clearly increased, 4 or 5 trees each time. But this time, they didn't trade for as much white salt as before. Instead, shifted to clay pots, clay basins, and larger water jars. More practical. Moreover, Mao Lu, after feeling the huge convenience brought by bronze axes, his desire for bronze tools grew stronger. Therefore, he expectantly proposed a trade for bronze tools. He flatly refused. One must know, the reason the Han tribe could surpass other tribes was precisely thanks to these tools. For the Han tribe, these tools were as important as blood vessels. Seeing this, Mao Lu had to give up the vain hope, led the tribesmen, leaving dejectedly. As for processing tung oil, also encountered some difficulties. He knew very well, tung oil was very important. It could protect wooden tools very well. Even in the future, in some special processes, could also play a key role. But to extract tung oil, must go through high-temperature roasting. The difficulty the Han tribe faced was not having pots large enough to roast in large quantities. He sighed helplessly, had to temporarily shelve the tung oil processing plan. Thinking, wait a while longer. Must cast a batch of suitable bronze pots. Just then, a carpenter ran over happily to report. The loom was finished. Now, just waiting for him to come assemble. He was extremely excited and hurried to the carpentry group. According to the prepared drawings, assembled the first loom in human history in less than 2 hours. After that, he called a few strong tribesmen to carry the loom to the cool shed where Xiao Dai usually worked. This movement couldn't be hidden from everyone. Immediately attracted the attention of children and women around. Xiao Dai was also attracted by this commotion. Couldn't sit still anymore. It's been 7 days. Could he really have made the magical machine for weaving cloth? He was also impatient to test it himself, incidentally teaching Xiao Dai how to use it. After everything was ready, he put the stool down in front of the loom, sat down. He put his feet on the pedals, gently pedaled, only seeing the hemp rope pull the control lever, causing the 2 groups of warp threads to separate immediately. This sudden change immediately attracted Xiao Dai's attention. So, we don't need to separate the threads by hand anymore. He didn't say anything. All attention focused on the loom. 2 pedals pressed down alternately. The control lever carried the 2 groups of warp threads, like graceful dancers, sometimes separating, sometimes closing, rhythmic, as if playing an ancient tune. Simultaneously, he pushed the beater back and forth rhythmically. He took the wooden shuttle, 1 foot long, using 2 fingers, waxed, passed through the gap between the 2 layers of warp threads, forcefully pushed to the left. The shuttle glided quickly between the warp threads, almost encountering no resistance. Left hand gently caught the shuttle, pulled to the left. Next, right hand pulled the beater back. The weft thread was immediately pressed tight, straight, tightly interwoven with the warp threads. Then lifted left foot, pressed right foot down. 2 layers of warp threads quickly swapped places. Left hand passed the shuttle to the right again. Right hand quickly caught it. Left hand pulled the beater. A complete weaving cycle was completed smoothly. The women around just stared blankly at the strange machine, eyes full of curiosity and amazement, but only stopped at superficial curiosity. As for Xiao Dai, who had woven hemcloth by hand, was shocked by the scene before her. She knew very well, before, how difficult and time-consuming weaving was. Like the 2 steps he just did. In the Bien tribe, just separating the warp threads up and down took hundreds of breaths. Calculating it would take several minutes. But him only took no more than 3 seconds. The speed difference was truly incomparable. Moreover, this wasn't even the most important thing. As he said before, this loom was not only fast, but could also weave wider cloth. Could even weave continuously, creating very long pieces of cloth. Xiao Dai looked at the loom over a meter wide in front of her, then looked at the yarn roll wound over 40 meters on the beam. At this moment, Xiao Dai looked at the loom over a meter wide in front of her, heart burning like fire, stunned. If Mom saw this machine, don't know what reaction she would have. And the tribesmen standing around were all impressed by the chief, who could create this loom, hearts filled with more respect and gratitude. Xiao Dai suddenly looked at him, called out, "Chief, when I finish weaving the wool cloth, can you take me back to the Bien tribe to visit Mom?" He didn't hesitate. "Of course. Whenever you want to go back, just tell me. Then I want to bring a piece of wool cloth to give Mom. Is that okay?" Han Feng smiled and replied, "No problem. The wool made later is all woven by you. Moreover, our alpaca herd will continue to produce wool. Weave as much as you want." Xiao Dai hesitated slightly. Voice softer. "Our spinning machine. Can we give Mom one? We have 2 now." Hearing this, Han Feng's eyes flashed with an indescribable light. Slowly said, "Giving is not possible. Our Han tribe doesn't even have enough to use. But we can let them come to the Han tribe to use it." Xiao Dai tilted her head, innocently calculating. "But for Mom to come here takes a whole day. Using the spinning machine here for a day, then going back, takes another day. The road is too far. En Feng patient lu cord. Can let your Mom stay here. Our tribe has plenty of space." Xiao Dai looked troubled. "My mom is the chief of the tribe. She can't just leave the tribe forever." Han Feng heard this, helplessly waved his hand. All right. Just weave in peace. Wait until you want to visit Mom, then we'll discuss." Not long after, the elder and Xue Tu hurriedly came to find Han Feng. "Chief, the wind is very strong this afternoon. The moon isn't rising in the east. I'm afraid there will be heavy rain tonight." Xue Tu added, "Moreover, there was fire in the sky today. Maybe the moon was scared, so it didn't dare show its face." Hearing this, Han Feng immediately arranged. Quickly move pregnant women and young children into the caves. Others temporarily stay in straw huts. Distribute animal skins to everyone. Priority for children and women. Tie up the livestock tightly. Don't let them run away. Collect all metal tools. Store in a safe place. No wood or dry grass around. People must also stay away, because metal can attract lightning. Tonight, bring cooking utensils into the caves. Strong wind outside. Fire easily blown out. Dangerous if it catches the straw huts. We'll do it right away." The 2 old men hurriedly replied, then quickly left. Xiao Dai heard Han Feng say metal can attract lightning. Quickly removed the bronze hairpin and crown from his head. Han Feng was stunned, then saw the things in Xiao Dai's hand. Thinking, not good. I almost forgot about this. Thinking of this, Han Feng couldn't help worrying about De Li and the others of Babao Mountain. That place was full of metal, or Anfeng Hiri Li Fon Suya. Told him to set off for Babao Mountain tomorrow. Remind Li to take precautions. At this time, the tribe was in chaos. Everyone busy moving things, preparing food. Not long after, dark clouds rolled in, covering the sky. Wind blew harder, about force 7 or 8. In the sky, dark clouds swirled, as if lightning was coming. Just as the rain fell, a blinding bolt of lightning tore through the sky, accompanied by thunder rumbling. Some small children screamed in fear. Even adults took animal skins to cover their heads, trembling, hiding in the corners of huts. They were extremely afraid of the power of nature. Night fell. Rain still poured. Xiao Dai curled up in Han Feng's arms, sleeping soundly, mumbling. Seemed to be calling Mom. She missed home, or maybe remembering the old days. Stormy days. She also nestled in her mother's arms like this. That was the feeling of being protected. relied on. Now, he was her support. The next morning, the rain stopped. A beautiful rainbow appeared in the sky. Han Feng hurriedly ran to the fields to check the crops. Luckily, they weren't affected. He breathed a sigh of relief. At the same time, on the east bank of the river, the wandering tribe just came out of shelter, chasing some pheasants in the forest. Suddenly, they encountered another tribe, the Sparrow tribe, and were immediately surrounded. The leader of the Sparrow tribe was about Yu Fu's age. All young men under 20. 40 men, all holding bows and arrows, but looking quite crude. Both bows and arrows were very simple, but they had numbers. The wandering tribesmen were stunned. Luckily, Yu Fu remained calm, seeing the opponent only surrounded but hadn't attacked yet. He thought negotiation was possible. He bowed, thumped his chest in greeting, quietly waiting for the opponent to speak. Hand over all the birds you caught yesterday, then get lost. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. The Sparrow tribe chief signaled, shouted. While speaking, he drew his bow, shot an arrow into the ground in front of Yu Fu. The arrow stuck into the ground, making a soft thud. Don't shoot. This is all a misunderstanding. We will hand them over. Yu Fu didn't want trouble. Immediately took out all the pheasants caught yesterday. The Sparrow tribe chief didn't expect the opponent to hand over the loot so easily. Stunned for a moment, he quickly recovered, signaled subordinates to take the pheasants, then continued signaling to chase people away. But Yu Fu had no intention of leaving. He wouldn't miss any trading opportunity. Chief, we can leave, but we really need food. We can use items to trade. Trade with what? The Sparrow tribe chief asked curiously. White salt. Also food, Yu Fu said, while taking a small snakeskin bag from his waist. Opened it for the Sparrow tribe chief to see, then took a little out, signaling him to taste. The Sparrow tribe chief didn't dare try immediately, but he looked very interested in this pure white powder. Yu Fu tasted some himself, proving it wasn't poisonous. The Sparrow tribe chief then frowned and tasted. The result was as expected. The Han tribe's white salt quality was very good. The Sparrow tribe chief finished tasting, immediately agreed to trade. Unfortunately, Yu Fu only traded for a little food, not any specialties Han Feng needed. However, Yu Fu made an appointment with the opponent. Later, if there are good things, he'll come back to trade. Parting with the Sparrow tribe. The wandering tribe continued southeast. Going this direction, high chance of meeting more tribes. Could find what Chief Han Feng needed sooner. Back at the Han tribe, Xue had returned from Babao Mountain, bringing news from Dali. He said Dali and the others were safe and sound. Even built a house there. There were many animals there. No worry about food shortage. Hearing this, Han Feng wondered, weren't they mining, or why have time to build a house? Asking further, he learned the dozen of them could mine 2 or 3 carts of or daily. But the ox cart took 2 days for one trip. Transport speed couldn't keep up with mining speed, so they had free time to improve accommodation. Dali also sent a message. If Han Feng thought the amount of limestone transported was too little, he could have the carpentry group make a few more ox carts. Their mining output could definitely meet the demand. So the carpentry group, originally putting all effort into making weaving machines, switched to making ox carts. This time, they would make 4-wheeled ox carts. Goal was to carry more and save effort, so the wheels had to be made wider. The cart box also had to be higher, made into a deep box shape. In the past few days, the carpentry group also achieved significant results. Over 20 people put all effort into making machines, plus a team of people skilled in techniques guiding. Work speed was very fast. In just 6 days, they made 12 spinning machines, 2 carding machines. The upright loom Han Feng designed also made progress. One was assembled and calibrated. Another had the frame completed. Xiao Dai saw more and more weaving machines. Joy filled her heart. She used to loom more and more proficiently. From weaving 1 meter of cloth a day to 2 meters, 3 meters, even 10 meters, and could still increase output. In the Bien tribe before, to weave the amount of cloth she wove in 1 day would take 2 or 3 months, and the quality was far inferior to now. But Han Feng wasn't satisfied yet. He was still concerned about making a flying shuttle loom. If there was a flying shuttle loom, manual weaving speed could increase at least 3 times. Because the flying shuttle loom doesn't need 2 hands to pass the shuttle back and forth. The shuttle has springs at both ends. Just pulling a cord completes 1 shuttle pass. The problem is where to find springs. Another 2 weeks passed. After 10 days of hard work, with a speed of 10 meters of cloth every 3 days, Xiao Dai finished weaving the first 50-meter roll. The alpacas in the pen were also shorn. The rolls of wool, after being washed clean, got the spoon piled up into a big heap, enough to weave a few hundred meters of cloth. But after weaving all this wool, what material to use to continue weaving? This made Han Feng think. Couldn't let the loom sit idle. Must find new materials. At night, Xiao Dai lay beside Han Feng. Asked, "Tomorrow can I go back to the Bien tribe to visit Mom? I want to bring 2 meters of cloth to give Mom." Thinking there was nothing important recently, Han Feng agreed immediately. Also generously promised to give his mother-in-law 20 meters of cloth. The next morning, after instructing Shaman Rat and the elder, Han Feng Led riding Ro Bao and Hui Shan on a road, they walked leisurely all morning, arriving at the Bien tribe's hemp fields by noon. At this time, the women of the Bien tribe were harvesting the first batch of hemp of the year. As soon as Han Feng and Xiao Dai appeared near the hemp field, an ear-piercing whistle sounded. The women in the hemp field heard it, turned their heads in unison. They saw 2 giant beasts slowly approaching. Their faces showed clear fear. Hurriedly threw away tools, turned, and ran toward the tribe. The whole field immediately fell into chaos. Seeing this, Xiao Dai excitedly stood up, shouting into the distance, "Mom!" The fleeing women, hearing the shout, stopped, turned back to look, only seeing Xiao Dai standing on the back of the giant monster, desperately waving her hand, face beaming. Chong was the first to react. Joy flashed in her eyes. She disregarded everything, running straight toward Xiao Dai. Xiao Dai slid down from Hui Shan's back, running toward her mother. Mother and daughter hugged each other in the hemp field, choking up, speechless, telling each other the longing of the past time. A long while later, Xiao Dai took the roll of wool cloth from Hui Shan's back, gave it to Chong. "This is cloth I wove from alpaca wool. I'm giving it to you, Mom." Chong took the roll of cloth, gently stroked it, eyes full of amazement. "So beautiful." Xiao Dai smiled and said to her mother, "This was woven using the Han tribe's loom. The tribe has many magical machines. Now, I only need 6 days to weave a piece of cloth this long." Women of the Bien tribe immediately gathered around, looking at the wool cloth. Everyone admired it. "Chief Han, is this loom really that magical?" Chong asked curiously. He smiled and nodded. "This loom can indeed greatly improve weaving efficiency. If the Bien tribe also had one, your weaving speed would definitely increase significantly. I came this time, also for an important matter. Want to discuss with Mom." Chong looked at him, heart anxious. "Chief Han, please speak." He took a deep breath, slowly said, "I want to invite the Bien tribe to join the Han tribe. I can teach the Bien tribe how to fire better pottery, not only providing looms, but also providing white salt, so the people of the Bien tribe can have a better life." Xiao Dai heard this, looked at him in surprise. She didn't expect him to make this proposal at this time. The elders of the Bien tribe heard him finish, also showed surprise and hesitation. The hunting team captain secretly rejoiced. He had long heard of the Han tribe's power. If the Bien tribe joined, then he could definitely lie down and eat. Chong was both happy and worried. She worried if joining the Han tribe, the Bien tribe would lose its independence. Thinking for a while, she said, "Chief Han, this matter is too big. I need to discuss with the elders. We'll answer you tomorrow." He nodded, signaling understanding. Also took the initiative to tell her. The Han tribe is currently facing a shortage of land and food, hoping later to think of ways to solve these problems together. Chong heard him finish, heart even more confused. She looked at Xiao Dai, then looked at the tribesmen around. "Chief Han, I want to go to the Han tribe to see, then make a decision." He smiled. "Of course. I welcome it very much." The next day, Chong and the elders set off with him to the Han tribe. On the way, he introduced them to the Han tribe situation. Chong and the elders were full of curiosity and anticipation. When they approached the Han tribe, just met the Han tribe's patrol and hunting team. Several people happily carrying wild boars, preparing to return to the tribe. When seeing Han Feng's group, they greeted in unison. "Chief, bountiful harvest today, caught several wild boars." He smiled, nodded. "Take the boars back to the tribe first. Tonight, everyone eat freely." After entering the Han tribe, Chong and the Bien tribe elders were shocked by the scene before them. Huge square and brick houses under construction. These were things they had never seen, didn't even dare to think about. He led them to the unfinished brick houses. This is the house our Han tribe people live in, although not completely finished yet. But after completion, inside will have a stove and bed. Winter inside will be very warm. Chong stepped inside, looking at the spacious room and unique layout. Heart full of admiration. This house is so good, much better than our Bien tribe's houses. After that, he led them to the temporary shed area, where various looms were displayed. Xiao Dai excitedly ran to the loom, introduced to her mother and elders. This is the loom I told everyone about. Very useful. Finished speaking, she skillfully operated the loom, demonstrating for them. Elder Bien stepped forward, closely observing the loom's operation. Eyes full of amazement. She couldn't help it, reached out to touch the loom. This loom is truly a treasure. If our Bien tribe also had one, then our weaving efficiency would definitely be greatly improved. Xiao Dai immediately continued. Elder, as long as the Bien tribe joins the Han tribe, we can use these looms together. Elda Bien heard Xiod. Heart instantly moved. She turned to look at Chong, eyes full of expectation. At this moment, Elder Bien stroked the loom beside her while turning to look at Chong, eyes full of expectation. But Chang's heart was still in turmoil. She still couldn't make a decision. After all, she was the chief of the entire Bien tribe. Needed to think thoroughly. However, Elder Bien couldn't wait any longer. She decisively agreed to join the Han tribe, but on the condition that the Bien tribe be equipped with identical looms. Finished speaking, Elder Bien lay on the loom, crying miserably, saying her whole life had been wasted. If she had such a loom when she was young, then in this life, she could have woven countless amounts of cloth. She cried as if her heart was breaking. Seeing Elder Bien speak up, Chong naturally couldn't object, but she still had some unanswered questions in her heart. Chief Han, I can also agree to join the Han tribe. It's just that I don't quite understand. Most tribes have relatively small numbers. Even if the number reaches a few hundred, they usually have to separate into many different settlements. Otherwise, there won't be enough hunting grounds to provide food. But the Han tribe has so many people. If our Bien tribe joins too, can this settlement feed so many people? He didn't rush to answer, but led them to the livestock area, intending to let the two see with their own eyes, rather than just talking. At this time, the cattle pen was empty. Because it was daytime, the cattle had all gone out to work. But in an adjacent pen, there are still alpacas. In the rabbit pen, there are also thousands of rabbits. It's just that right now. Most of them are baby rabbits, less than a month old. These four-legged animals are called alpacas. They are very obedient. Moreover, they're all herbivores. In the winter, they grow a lot of long fur. It's just that it's all been sheared off now. The woolen cloth we are weaving is made from their fur. We raise these alpacas for several reasons. First, they don't compete with humans for food. Second, they can continuously produce fur. Third, they can also give birth to baby alpacas. Furthermore, when they get old, we can also slaughter them for meat. Of course, this isn't our main food source. Over here, we raise rabbits. I'm sure everyone knows about them. You've probably eaten them before, too. This is the main source of meat for the Han tribe right now. They grow extremely fast, and their reproductive ability is also very strong. A pair of rabbits can give birth to 5 or 6 kits in 2 months. In 4 months, they are mature enough to reproduce again. Last winter, the Han tribe only caught a few dozen rabbits. Now, they have multiplied to over 1,000, and they only eat grass every day. We just need to assign a group of children to cut grass for them, and that's enough to meet their food needs. This is much safer and more stable than hunting. After hearing this, Chong and Elder Bien were both incredibly astonished. Although they had seen the Han tribe raising elk and bison before, they had always assumed that the Han tribe only domesticated them for labor. They never would have imagined that the Han tribe raised so many different kinds of animals, including some specifically for meat and for weaving cloth. Moreover, the plan he presented, providing food through animal husbandry instead of hunting, completely overturned their traditional hunting mindset. So, Chieftain Han, can you domesticate and raise any kind of animal? Elder Bien asked curiously. Not just any. We can only raise herbivores. Furthermore, they must be species with a gentle temperament. that don't actively attack people. They also have to be useful to us. For example, helping us with work, providing meat, or providing fur. Carnivores cannot be raised. We barely have enough food for ourselves. Besides, most carnivores are very fierce and will injure people. Then what about those 2 elephants? Don't they eat a lot too? The elder asked again, as if suddenly remembering something. Those 2 came to us on their own. We didn't capture them. Right now, they mainly help us dig rivers. They can also be used as mounts. Plus, they're quite intelligent, and they're very good fighters. They are our tribe's guardian beasts. He began to embellish the story. After listening, Chong and the elder nodded. Guardian beasts. That sounds very impressive. Come on, let's go see our rice paddies. That is also an extremely important thing. With that, he led them outside the enclosure wall. Neither of them knew what that was, so they curiously hurried to follow. East of the enclosure wall were 2 man-made rivers, shimmering with water. On both banks of the rivers were hemp fields and rice paddies. The hemp fields are over there. I'm sure you both know what they are. We just planted those this year. The first time I came to your tribe, it was actually to plant hemp fields. He pointed to the north bank of the irrigation channel and said. Hearing this, Chong and Xiao Dai couldn't help but blush. They remembered the first time they met him, when they captured him and brought him back. And over here are our rice paddies. This is our grain, something to eat. He led them to the edge of the rice paddy, pointing to a rice plant. He introduced, this is the rice panicle. It's where they flower and produce grain. When the rice is ripe, we will harvest the seeds. Those seeds are what we will eat. This one rice plant, the grain from it, is enough to feed an adult for 1 meal. Its grain is called paddy. After being dried, it can be stored for several years. But paddy is very hard. It must be put in a pot and cooked before it can be eaten. With a lot of water, it becomes porridge. With less water, it becomes rice. People can survive just by eating rice. This is our staple food. After hearing this, Chong and Elder Bien were so shocked their jaws dropped. They had always believed that food had to be obtained through hunting and gathering. This was the first time they had heard that food could also be grown. Moreover, a single rice plant could provide enough food for 1 person for a meal. Chieftain Han, if rice is so good, why don't we plant more of it? Why are we still raising those animals? Isn't that a waste of manpower? Chong asked, puzzled. Her tone had unconsciously shifted to we. Although rice is good, we can't just eat rice alone. Besides these rice plants, it's not just us humans who can eat them. They can also be used to feed those animals. We eat the grain, and the animals can eat the stalks and leaves. It would be too wasteful to burn them. Furthermore, animal manure can be used as fertilizer to enrich the fields. It can make the rice grains more plentiful and larger. Also, you said you want to plant more rice, but that's actually very difficult. Rice can't be grown just anywhere. It can only be grown in water. Rice paddies must always be flooded with water. For example, these paddies here, we dug the rivers ourselves and transformed the land to create them. The 2 rivers over there and over there, we dug them all by hand. The excavated earth was used to make bricks, to build houses. After hearing this, Chong and the elder nearly had their jaws hit the floor. Rivers can be dug by people. If he hadn't said it himself, they would have always thought those 2 rivers were formed naturally. No wonder they felt it was so strange when they first saw how straight the river was. Over there, that river was just recently finished. I plan to continue expanding the rice paddy area next month. He pointed towards the newly dug river. Can you still plant rice this year? How long does this plant take to produce grain? The elder asked. From the time the seed is sown to the time it flowers and produces grain, it takes more than 3 months. In the spring, when the ice and snow melt, we can plant 1 crop. It can be harvested in early summer. Then we plant the second crop. If we're fast, we can harvest again at the end of summer. In theory, we can still plant another crop in the fall, but I don't know if we can harvest it before winter arrives. It seems a bit difficult to plant 3 crops of rice this year. If we can grasp the patterns of the weather and temperature and replant immediately after each harvest. If we're fast enough, then in theory, we can plant 3 crops of rice. It was the first time Chong and Elder Bien had heard about rice plants. After listening to his introduction, they silently calculated. A year has 14 months, 4 of which are the cold winter. The remaining 10 months can all be used for planting rice. 1 rice plant is enough for 1 meal. So one person needs more than 800 plants per year. That's based on 2 meals a day. If it's 3 meals, it would be about 1,300 plants. Divided into 3 plantings. Planting 400 to 500 plants each time would be enough. This food source seems very viable. No wonder it's used as the staple food. But only he himself knew that planting 3 crops of rice was as difficult as reaching for the sky. Although 10 months seems like enough time, it's almost impossible in practice. Unless, for each crop rotation, you sow the seeds immediately after harvesting. That would be too difficult, too rushed. Harvesting takes time. Plowing and fertilizing also take time. Just the time for crop rotation alone could take up to 10 days. And that's considered fast. 2 crop rotations could waste nearly a month. Although the 3rd rice crop could be planted, it definitely wouldn't have time to ripen before winter arrives. That would be a disaster. But man proposes, God disposes. As long as we study it carefully and try to shorten the rotation time, perhaps it can be done. With that, the tour for the 2 high-level leaders of the Bien tribe came to a successful conclusion. They now had a clearer understanding of the Han tribe. Both sides also smoothly agreed that the Bien tribe would join the Han tribe. For the time being, the Bien tribe would not move to the Han tribe's location. But from now on, the Bien tribe was considered a member of the Han tribe. He would provide them with the same production tools and daily necessities as the Han tribe. The Bien tribe, in turn, had to provide the Han tribe with their entire harvest of hemp fiber. The initial supply plan was for him to dispatch 5 ox carts to the Bien tribe. They were simple carts, pulled by a single ox. They were all carts that the Han tribe was currently using to transport bricks. These 5 ox carts would transport some pottery, white salt, water barrels, bronze axes, bronze shovels, bronze spears, and so on. These were tools for production and daily life. There were also 10 spinning wheels, the Han tribe's only 2 carding machines, and 1 loom. Currently, all the wool had been carded. There wasn't much for the machines to do in the short term, so they were temporarily brought to the Bien tribe to card hemp fiber. Later, there would be a new type of loom, specifically for weaving hemp sacks. Soon, the rice would be ripe, and the Han tribe would need a large number of hemp sacks to store the paddy. This was also the first production task he assigned them. After returning, the Bien tribe had to devote all their efforts to weaving hemp sacks. The size, specifications, specific manufacturing process, and even the machinery. He would send them over one by one later. For now, they just needed to spin hemp fiber like their lives depended on it. This was also why he sent 10 spinning wheels to the Bien tribe at once. After the tour was over, it was already nearing evening. The 2 of them, along with Xiao Dai, also visited the carpentry and pottery workshops, which was a real eye-opener for them. Compared to the Han tribe, they were truly too backward. But now, they were also members of the Han tribe. In the future, they too could enjoy these things. Thinking of this, an indescribable sense of pride welled up in both of them. It was a feeling of belonging and identification with the Han tribe. That evening, Chong and the elder were treated to a sumptuous meal. Salt and chili were used generously. Back in the Bien tribe, they were very frugal with their white salt. After all, it was a precious commodity obtained at the cost of human lives. They didn't dare to use it extravagantly. Each person would only dare to take a tiny bit to taste. Sprinkling it on food was an even greater luxury. The next morning, he began to get busy with arrangements, telling the tribesmen to prepare supplies for the Bien tribe. Chong and the elder also seriously learned how to use the carding machine and spinning wheel. This was the first task he had given them, and they were determined to complete it perfectly. It took a day to prepare the supplies. Chong and the elder also spent the whole day learning to use the various machines. On the morning of the 3rd day, the 2 of them set off on their return journey. Accompanying them were 8 ox carts and 10 tribesmen. Among them, 8 were responsible for driving the carts. The other 2 were sent by him. These 2 women were among the first members of the Han tribe. They were responsible for teaching the Bien people how to use the various supplies, and also teaching them the Han language. They were also left there to remind the Bien tribe not to forget what they had promised the Han tribe. Don't even think about taking his things and running off. That was impossible. Also going with them was the hunting party riding elk. They were responsible for escorting the convoy safely to the entrance of the valley, where the Bien tribe lived. After that, they would return to the Han tribe on their own. As for him, after seeing off the people from the Bien tribe, He immediately buried himself in the workshop, starting to research looms. He was determined to create a new type of loom with a simpler structure, one that was easy to assemble and disassemble. After all, in the near future, the number of hemp sacks the tribe needed to weave was not small. With a more convenient loom, efficiency would be greatly improved. They could better cope with the upcoming harvest. At the same time, the Yu tribe was advancing along the east bank of the river. After walking for a while, they encountered the Lu tribe. They saw the women of the Lu tribe chasing a herd of small, spotted pigs towards their tribe. These pigs had short, colorful, glossy fur. They were plump and round, looking very healthy. One look was enough to tell they were well cared for. Yu of the Yu tribe wasn't paying attention to his surroundings and carelessly fell into a trap set by the Lu tribe. The pain made him cry out. Yu Fu rushed over to check on the situation, then stood up and shouted toward the Lu tribe, "We are from the Yu tribe. We're just passing through. We are not here to attack you." The chieftain of the Lu tribe heard the commotion and led several tribesmen over. He immediately noticed the ox and deer-drawn carts used by the Yu tribe. The carts were also loaded with a considerable amount of pottery and white salt. He instantly became interested. Seeing this, Yu Fu took the initiative to introduce the idea of intertribal trade. He even took out some white salt and gave it to Chieftain Ju. "Chieftain, please have a taste. This salt has a very pure flavor. In our region, this is a rare and fine thing." Ju took it and tasted it. The salty taste made his eyes light up. He immediately decided to trade animal skins or other fine goods for this white salt. When Yu Fu heard this, he was secretly overjoyed. He thought for a moment and said, "Chieftain, I find the spotted pigs your tribe raises very interesting. I wonder if I could trade some white salt to take a few back with me?" When Ju heard this, he was surprisingly generous. He smiled and invited them to be guests of his tribe, to slowly discuss the trade. Upon arriving at the Lu tribe, Ju enthusiastically introduced the habits of these spotted pigs to the members of the Yu tribe. These spotted pigs love to eat daylilies and cabbage. There are plenty of both around our tribe. Furthermore, I can give you some seeds and daylily roots. If you take them back and plant them, you can raise spotted pigs yourselves. When Yu Fu and the others heard this, they all felt this was a very good deal. The two sides sat down and began to discuss the details of the trade. After a round of bargaining, the Yu tribe ended up using a good amount of white salt to trade for 2 boars, for sows, and also 50 piglets. In addition, the Lu tribe threw in a young, capable woman to help out. They also added some cabbage seeds, daylily roots, and a considerable number of animal skins. The people of the Yu tribe were overjoyed. Satisfied, they herded the pigs, carried their newly acquired goods, and set off on their journey back to the Han tribe. At this time in the Han tribe, the scene was one of bustling activity. Everyone was focused on making looms. The Bien tribe, on their end, was also weaving hemp cloth as agreed. The Yu tribe was herding their pigs, carefully returning to the Han tribe, constantly worried that something unexpected might happen on the way. Meanwhile, the mine wasn't idle either. Ox cart after ox cart was busy transporting ore. Overall, everything was going smoothly. It seemed as if a beautiful future was just around the corner. But unexpectedly, danger crept in silently at this moment. That afternoon, Itsubing hastily led more than 20 strangers back to the tribe. These people were all in a panic, exhausted and covered in wounds. Upon asking, it was learned that they were from another tribe, fleeing here as refugees. Their tribe had suffered a terrifying attack. He hurried forward to ask about the specific situation. The people, still in shock, recounted, "The ones who attacked us were a group of cannibals. There was also a very large and ferocious wild beast. That beast had a human-like shape, and its strength was terrifyingly immense. A single slap could send a person flying. Many people in our tribe were killed by them. Only we were lucky enough to escape." Hearing this, his heart tightened. He couldn't help but remember the brutal battle with the 8 men from before. Without a moment's hesitation, he immediately summoned the leaders of the tribe and solemnly assigned tasks. "Shoya, go to the Bien tribe immediately. Tell them to stop the supply deliveries. Then, quickly call back the people quarrying stone at North Mountain, and the ox carts transporting ore from the east. Also, the people watching over the boats. Tell everyone to return. Strengthen the tribe's defenses. The logging team and the gathering team should stay where they are for now and continue their work. The fishing team will continue as usual. but they must send someone to closely monitor all movements in the surrounding area. If there's anything unusual, they must immediately return to report. After making the arrangements, he originally intended to organize the tribesmen to harvest the rice at night. But on second thought, everyone had worked hard all day. They were all exhausted. If he forced everyone to work, the efficiency would likely be low. On the contrary, it would be easy to make mistakes. So, he had to let the tribesmen rest first. However, to prevent any surprises, he still arranged for 100 warriors to take turns on guard duty. He sat in his tent, racking his brain for a strategy to deal with the enemy. He knew very well that among the more than 200 enemies, the most troublesome were the 8 men. We have to find a flat, open area to fight. That way, we can maximize our side's advantages. Furthermore, we must find a way to restrict the movement of the apes. Using nets or ropes will definitely be effective. That's right. We can also use lime powder to attack their eyes, temporarily disabling their ability to fight. The next morning, he sent out 3 cavalry teams, each heading in a different direction to spread the news, notifying the neighboring tribes and friends to be on guard. The rest of the people in the tribe stayed behind. A portion of the women were sent to harvest chili peppers. After all, chili is an important resource. The rest went to harvest rice. The men were trained according to their strengths. Those skilled in archery went to the riverbank. They would protect the fishing team, while also taking the opportunity to hunt, supplementing the food reserves. 100 strong men were gathered together to practice with meteor hammers. Actually, a meteor hammer is just a rock tied to a long rope. If it can successfully entangle the 8 men, it will be very useful. The rest practiced throwing short ropes with rocks tied to them. These weren't ordinary ropes. They were actually for throwing cloth bags filled with lime powder to attack the enemy. He himself wasn't idle either. He meticulously made a trial cloth bag for the lime powder, constantly adjusting how the rope was tied, striving to achieve the best effect. After some tinkering, he finally found a suitable way to tie the rope. Then, he had the women follow this method to create 300 bags of lime powder. He also had everyone make straw hats with veils to protect the tribesmen from injury in battle. The cavalrymen who went to deliver the news returned one by one. The team that went to the Bien tribe brought back 30 large nets. It was like receiving charcoal in a snowstorm. The team that went towards the dark forest brought back a boatload of limestone. They also conveniently caught a good number of rabbits along the way. It could be considered a fruitful trip. Only the team that went towards North Mountain, due to the long distance, could not return that day. Looking at the supplies brought back, he felt a sense of relief. Next, he decided to take the initiative and attack, to nip the danger in the bud. He absolutely could not let the enemy reach the tribe's doorstep. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. On the morning of the 3rd day, a formidable army of 411 people was ready to set out. The force included skilled archers, a meteor hammer team specialized in entangling enemies, a prisoner capture team, a long spear team, and the highly mobile elk cavalry, and so on. Even the refugees were included. They served as guides, pulling ox carts behind the main force. The mighty army marched north. After traveling for a while, they unexpectedly encountered a pack of wild wolves. But the wolf pack was no match for the well-trained warriors. Everyone coordinated seamlessly, quickly surrounding the wolf pack. After a battle, they easily wiped out the entire pack, gaining a considerable amount of spoils. This boosted everyone's fighting spirit. They were all fired up, full of confidence for the battles to come. As evening approached, the army arrived at a valley. Shoya led a few men to scout the surrounding area. When he returned, he brought back some refugees from the tree tribe. It turned out the tree tribe had been attacked by the cannibals. The entire tribe was scattered. Only these few people were lucky enough to escape. After hearing their story, Han Feng couldn't help but feel compassion. He immediately had the women of the tree tribe help cook, preparing food for the warriors. As for the men, he issued each of them a weapon, letting them join the fight. Among the refugees from the tree tribe, one man was wearing a piece of leather armor. This caught Han Feng's attention. He picked it up to examine it carefully and discovered that this leather armor was not only very durable, but also very light. He immediately became interested in the material called thorn grass. He thought to himself, after this battle is over, I must go and see that thorn grass, if it can be utilized in large quantities, to make armor for the tribe's warriors. Their combat effectiveness will surely be greatly enhanced. The next day, Han Feng set up the battlefield outside the valley early in the morning. He commanded the warriors to hide behind small mounds, distributing the bags of lime powder. Everything was ready. He led the cavalry team towards the direction where the enemy might be. By noon, finally, at the edge of the forest, he discovered traces of the enemy. There was a group of cannibal warriors there. Each one was armed, their faces fierce and menacing. Beside them were more than a dozen large, ferocious ape men. Furthermore, they had also captured many prisoners. Seeing this, Han Feng didn't waste words. He drew his bow, knocked an arrow, and with a whoosh, the arrow flew out, embedding itself straight into a cannibal warrior. Next, he shot another arrow towards the ape men. This arrow enraged them. They roared and charged straight at him. The cannibal warriors also raised their shields and began to attack. Seeing that he had achieved his goal, Han Feng led the cavalry team, running back towards the valley, while taunting the ape men, making them follow relentlessly. Just like that, they ran for a whole afternoon. Finally, they neared the valley. Han Feng ordered the cavalry to prepare for battle. He himself quickly put on his armor and helmet. When the 17 ape men aggressively pursued them, he immediately shouted, "Attack!" The warriors simultaneously threw the bags of lime powder towards the ape men. In an instant, lime powder filled the air, creating a cloud of white dust. The ape men got the powder in their eyes and screamed in agony. Their formation fell into chaos. At this very moment, the Meteor Hammer team seized the opportunity. They rushed forward, using the long ropes of their meteor hammers to skillfully split the ape men's formation, isolating them one by one. The prisoner capture team and a long spear team immediately followed, coordinating seamlessly to tie up the ape men, then taking the opportunity to eliminate them one by one. The tribesmen who witnessed this scene all cheered excitedly. Revenge! We've gotten our revenge. But Han Feng was not blinded by victory. He loudly reminded everyone not to let their guard down. There's still more than 200 enemies waiting. We must continue to fight and wipe them all out. Hearing this, everyone shouted their slogans, gripped their weapons tightly, and prepared for the next battle. Their morale was sky high, as if they could crush any enemy. It was almost dark by now. Han Feng led the warriors back to the campsite in the valley. They washed themselves clean in the clear stream, rinsing off the dust, and then began to prepare dinner. Everyone gathered around the bonfire, skillfully preparing food, while excitedly discussing the battle that had just taken place. Everyone admired the chieftain's tactics, especially the unexpected use of lime powder. It's just that the amount of lime powder they brought wasn't much. At this moment, the guide from the tree tribe, with a worried expression, stood up. He was a little uneasy. He said to Han Feng, "Chieftain, we can't use the same method to deal with the remaining enemies. I saw it very clearly. The captured members of our tribe are in their ranks. If we fight like that, I'm afraid those tribesmen will lose their lives." He nodded, indicating he understood, then said in a low voice, "I know. The lime powder is all used up anyway. Besides, I never intended to kill them all." Hearing this, the guide showed a look of confusion. "Not kill them?" He patiently explained. "That's right, not kill them. Our tribe has a lot of work to do. Wouldn't killing them be letting them off too easy? I plan to capture them alive and make them work for the tribe." Hearing this, the guide still didn't understand. Why make them work? Can't we do it ourselves? Besides, we have to waste food to feed them. Han Feng sighed softly. He explained further, "There's too much work to be done. No matter how many more people we have, it's not enough compared to the labor they provide. That little bit of food is nothing. Besides, we won't be feeding them until they're full every day." The guide listened to Han Feng and nodded, seeming to understand. He knew the Han tribe had many people, but he still wondered to himself, besides hunting and gathering, what other work could there possibly be? So he asked again, "Chieftain, what kind of work does our tribe have to do?" Han Feng said slowly, "Hunting doesn't require that many people. Right now, our urgent task is to build sturdy houses for everyone. These houses must not only provide shelter from the rain and sun in the summer, but also withstand the bone-chilling cold in the winter. In addition, we have to dig deep, channel water for irrigation, and cultivate various food crops. At the same time, we must send people to the mountains to cut trees, gathering enough firewood and timber. There's really too much to do. The guide became more and more confused. He thought to himself, maybe I'll wait until we get to the Han tribe to find out more. After all, right now he was only concerned about the safety of his own tribesmen. After dinner, Han Feng summoned Xue, Shoya, Judo, and the other leaders. He informed them of his decision to capture the prisoners alive. Everyone agreed after hearing the plan. However, the thought of capturing over 200 enemies alive made everyone frown. They didn't know where to start. Seeing this, Han Feng calmly laid out his well-thought-out plan. The cannibals are on foot. Their speed is definitely not fast. Plus, they're leading many prisoners. They definitely won't be able to reach the valley today. They will have to find a place to make camp and rest for the night. We can take that opportunity to launch a surprise attack at night. After agreeing on the battle plan, the team quickly assembled. The warriors recalled their previous ambush experience. Although they had to lie in wait on the battlefield all day, apart from the brief battle in the afternoon, they were mostly resting. Moreover, they had just won a victory, and everyone's morale was high. Hearing the chieftain say he wanted to take the initiative to attack and capture the enemy to work for them, everyone was extremely excited. But the first order Han Feng gave left the tribesmen both surprised and amused, even a little dumbfounded. He commanded the tribesmen to dig a small pit by the stream, then channel stream water into it, mixing it into a muddy puddle. Next, he ordered everyone to jump into the mud pit and roll around, one by one, until their entire bodies from head to toe were covered in mud. Even their weapons were no exception, all coated in a thick layer of mud. He explained that this was to blend in with the darkness, to make it harder for the enemy to spot them during the night raid. The sky gradually darkened completely. Hundreds of Han tribe warriors, looking like mud men, silently split into several groups and advanced steadily north. The first group consisted of 30 men. They formed a horizontal line, cautiously scouting their way north. There was a distance of about 10 to 20 meters between each person. Han Feng specifically instructed them that if they discovered any trace of the enemy, they were absolutely not to act on their own. Instead, they must immediately return to report. Then they would regroup and follow the chieftain's unified command. The second group consisted of 70 men, divided into 7 vertical columns. They formed a horizontal line, maintaining a distance of about 200 meters from the first group, ready to provide timely support if the first group encountered an unexpected situation. The third group consisted of 100 men, divided into 10 vertical columns, also maintaining a 200-meter distance from the second group. As for the remaining 200-plus warriors, along with the cavalry and 2 ox carts, they were responsible for bringing up the rear. He arranged them this way because he knew that if everyone was concentrated in one place, the noise they made would be very loud. In that case, he feared that before they even arrived, they would be discovered by the enemy's sentries from afar. The army moved quickly in the dark. About 3 or 4 hours later, as it was nearing dawn, suddenly a warrior in the first group sharply spotted the faint glow of a fire up ahead. He didn't dare to hesitate, immediately running back as fast as he could to report to the groups behind. He also received the report and immediately looked towards the direction of the fire. Then, to ensure the information was accurate, he personally and silently approached a scout. Finally, he confirmed that this campsite was indeed the hiding place of the cannibals they had been painstakingly searching for. He quickly returned, gathered all the warriors, and told everyone to rest on the spot, in a place where the enemy couldn't detect them. Next, he selected more than a dozen tribesmen skilled in archery, and secretly led them towards the enemy camp. However, Han Feng quickly realized that this was not the best time to attack. He decisively led the first and second groups to retreat quickly, rejoining the main force behind. Then, he gathered everyone and waited patiently because he knew very well that the best time to strike was around 2 or 3 in the morning. At that time, the sky is at its darkest, and the enemy is deep in sleep. The Han tribe's assembly point was not far from the cannibals' camp, at least a kilometer away. This distance was just right. As long as everyone spoke softly, the enemy would basically be unable to hear them. As long as they didn't light a campfire, they wouldn't be easily exposed. Knowing this, everyone felt at ease. They drank water from the barrels on the ox carts, and then gathered around the carts, sitting down to rest. However, Their weapons were always kept in hand. Even while sleeping, they held them tightly. Han Feng then arranged for Xue to take temporary command, while he himself called over Xue Tu and the guy from the tree tribe. The three of them secretly returned to scout the enemy camp. The three men, covered in mud, were like ghosts in the dark night. Moving swiftly, without making a sound, they lay flat on the ground, slowly crawling forward. 200 meters. It took them more than 10 minutes to crawl. Finally, the enemy camp was right before their eyes. They saw that most of the cannibals were sound asleep. They were lying askew on their shields. The shields were made from animal hide, stretched over a wooden frame. They could be used as temporary beds. The cannibals slept soundly on them, still clutching their stone axes. Not far away, their spears were propped up against each other. They still clutched their stone axes, ready for battle. They slept very soundly, perhaps in their minds. As long as those dozen or so ferocious ape men charged forward first to fight the enemy, the opponent would surely be unable to withstand them. They never thought that Han Feng would lead his people to counterattack. Therefore, their defenses were very lax. They basically had no mobile patrols. There were only 5 or 6 stationary guards, and even they were yawning. This camp had about 200 plus people. However, the captured prisoners were not in the same place as the cannibals. They were confined in another area, slightly to the north, less than 10 meters away. There are also several guards there. They look more alert now. Perhaps they're afraid the prisoners will take the opportunity to escape. The captured prisoners included men, women, and children. This morning, Han Feng saw about 60 or 70 people, but counting again now, there were only a little over 50 left. He was wondering where the others had gone, when suddenly a groan came from beside him, followed by the sound of a violent struggle. He turned his head and saw Xue Tu clamping his hand tightly over the guide's mouth, forcefully pinning him to the ground. The guide's eyes were wide with terror, tears streaming down his face. He was staring at a standing guard. The guard was holding a strangely shaped object in his hand, which had been roasted. It looked like a human arm. He was gnawing on it with relish, his mouth making loud, smacking noises as he chewed. Han Feng suppressed his nausea and fury, turning to the guide. He signaled for him to absolutely not make a move. After getting a clear picture of the enemy's defenses, the three of them quietly slipped away, without making a single sound. Afterward, he immediately laid out the mission for his tribesmen. He chose 50 archers and ordered them to concentrate their fire to eliminate the dozen or so guards. It had to be swift and clean. No one could be left alive. Furthermore, they couldn't make any loud noises and risk waking the sleeping enemies. Next, he dispatched 50 strong warriors. After the guards were eliminated, they were to secretly infiltrate the enemy camp and steal their spears, depriving them of their most dangerous weapons. The remaining 300 plus men would lie in ambush all around. Once the first 2 tasks were completed, they would all attack at once. They would use 30 large nets to throw over the enemy's heads. The warriors without nets would charge indirectly. Their first objective was to seize the enemy's stone axes, completely stripping them of their ability to fight back. After that, it would be simple. They would just charge in and fight hand to hand. After all, the Han tribe had nearly twice as many warriors as the enemy. Plus, they had weapons. Controlling the situation would not be a difficult problem. After the meticulous scouting and battle planning, it was now around 2 in the morning. The entire army, fully equipped, began the dramatic raid. Everyone proceeded as they had before. They ran until they were 200 meters away, then began to crawl. The archers crawled ahead. This time, everyone crawled slower and more carefully. With so many people, even small but frequent noises could easily give them away. Like this, after crawling for over 20 minutes, the hundreds of mud-caked warriors finally reached the closest position, less than 40 meters from the enemy. However, they didn't dare get too close. Only the archers moved forward, to about 20 meters away. The archers were all equipped with longbows. They couldn't shoot while lying down like with a crossbow. Therefore, they could only wait for Han Feng's command. When the order was given, they would all stand up and attack in unison. They waited for another minute or 2. The enemy guards remained completely unaware. Those who were sleeping showed no signs of stirring. Seeing that the time was right, he gave the order to attack. He imitated the call of a watercock. letting out 2 sharp chirps. The standing guards heard the strange sound and paused. They wondered, what kind of bird is that? Why we never heard it before? However, they wouldn't get the chance to find out. As soon as they heard the signal, from the ground all around them, 50 mud-caked warriors suddenly shot up like ghosts. In their hands, their longbows were already drawn. Arrows knocked on the strings. The next second, the arrows whizzed through the dark night. Immediately after came the dull thuds, the sound of arrows hitting their targets. The dozen or so guards collapsed instantly. Each one was hit by 3 or 4 arrows. Moreover, they were all fatal wounds. Seeing that all the guards had been eliminated, Han Feng immediately stood up and waved his hand towards the enemy camp. 50 warriors moved quickly, sprinting silently towards the enemy camp. They snatched the spears that were propped up on the ground and then ran out, throwing them behind them. The remaining warriors immediately surged forward like a breaking dam. But the scene was very quiet. No one shouted a battle cry. They rushed forward, using large nets to cast over the enemies, aiming for the most crowded spots. For example, places where 5 or 6 people were gathered. If there were only 3 or 4 people, they would be left for the warriors without nets to handle. When the first net came down, the enemy was startled awake. However, as soon as they opened their eyes, they were covered by the net. Immediately after, a group of warriors rushed over, pummeling them with fists and feet, causing them to scream in agony. They couldn't escape from the net, and the stone axes in their hands couldn't be swung. The 60 or 70 enemies not caught in the nets hastily stood up to fight back. Instinctively, they tried to grab their spears, but when they turned around, the spears had vanished. With no other choice, they had to use their stone axes to defend themselves. But the mud-covered warriors were all holding long weapons. The cannibal soldiers, even with their stone axes, couldn't reach them. They also didn't dare to throw their stone axes, because once thrown, their hands would be empty. At that point, they would be as good as dead. So in some places, a temporary stalemate occurred. There were also enemies who jumped up as soon as they heard the commotion. Seeing so many enemies suddenly appear around them, they were terrified and fled for their lives. But they didn't get far before being caught by warriors using meteor hammers. There were also 5 or 6 belligerent ones who gathered together, wielding their stone axes and fighting back frantically. But they were quickly stabbed to death on the spot by bronze spears. There were also some enemies who threw their stone axes from the very beginning. Although they caused some casualties to the Han tribe, once they lost their weapons, they were swarmed by several times their number of warriors and beaten to a pulp. In this battle, the one with the most outstanding performance had to be Xue Tu. This assassin was not used to the Han tribe's bronze spears. He still used his familiar long staff. This time, when he broke into the enemy's formation, he was like a fish in water. The long staff in his hand sometimes thrusted straight, sometimes swept horizontally, sometimes chopped down, sometimes flicked up. Its power was immense. Wherever the staff swung, enemies fell to the ground, but he acted with restraint, only knocking them unconscious, not killing them. The chaotic battle did not last long. The enemy was quickly overwhelmed, then pinned to the ground, and beaten half to death. Once everyone was under control, the tribesmen took out their ropes and began to tie up the prisoners. Han Feng told everyone to take the spears they had just collected, use axes to chop off the sharp tips, leaving only the shafts. Then he had them place these staffs behind the prisoners' backs, tie their 2 hands to it, loop it around their necks, and finally, tie them into a cross shape. This way, they couldn't untie themselves. Moreover, if they struggled even slightly, they would choke themselves. About 20 minutes later, all the prisoners were securely tied up. Afterward, they were kicked over. They couldn't stand up on their own, only able to lie prone on the ground and scream. However, if they made a fuss, they would immediately be beaten. Gradually, no prisoner dared to cause trouble anymore. Finally, a tally was taken. There were a total of 237 enemies. 29 were shot or stabbed to death. 208 were captured alive. This would be the first group of slaves for the Han tribe. Moreover, it would be a system of permanent slavery. They would never have the chance to join the Han tribe. In this battle, no warriors from the Han tribe were killed. Only 5 or 6 people suffered minor injuries. In addition, 57 prisoners were rescued. They were the tribesmen of the two tribes that had been attacked earlier. After hearing their own people's accounts, they all happily agreed to join the Han tribe. After all, with their own strength, they were fundamentally unable to protect themselves. After this battle, the power of the Han tribe grew even stronger. However, Han Feng believed that the greatest gain from this northern expedition was not just the manpower and territorial expansion. More importantly, this was the first time the Han tribe had tested a new tactic, successfully defeating more than a dozen ape men and finding an effective strategy. This could be used to deal with potential large-scale conflicts in the future. For the long-term development of the tribe, this held immense strategic significance. Furthermore, within a single day, they had achieved 2 consecutive victories. This was a powerful shot in the arm, greatly boosting the fighting spirit of the entire tribe. In these 2 battles, Han Feng, as the chieftain, had deployed brilliant tactics, resulting in almost no casualties for his tribesmen. This naturally caused his prestige in the hearts of the warriors to soar. Of course, there was another important gain that Han Feng always kept in mind. That was the thorn grass of the tree tribe. This plant, which could produce natural resin, held immense potential for the construction and development of the tribe. He had to find a way to bring it back. The warriors rested on the spot until past midnight. As the sky began to lighten, Han Feng called Da Shu over. He told them to lead the main army and go on ahead. On the way, he must keep a close watch on the prisoners. Don't feed them for now. Just give them salt water to drink. Starve them for a few days so they won't have the strength to resist. Once they get back to the tribe, only give them 1 meal a day, just enough to ensure they don't starve to death. Don't let your guard down for now. We'll figure out the rest when I get back. Chieftain, aren't you coming back with us? The Shu asked, full of doubt. I have to take some people to the tree tribe settlement. There's a special kind of plant there that's very useful to our tribe. I have to find a way to bring it back and see if it can be planted in our tribe. As for the others, you take them all back. I only need 5 cavalrymen, plus 1 guide. That's enough. We won't be gone for long. It's possible that before you even get back to the tribe, I'll have already caught up with you. All right, chieftain, you must be careful. I will watch over the slaves. The Shu stood at attention, saluting Han Feng. He nodded, then called over 5 cavalrymen. He himself rode Hui Shan, and the guide rode Robao. The 7 of them continued north. Soon, they reached the former living area of the tree tribe. It was a flat, vast area with a few scattered shrubs and trees. The ground was covered with the footprints of various animals. A single glance was enough to tell that this was a place with extremely rich resources. There was a lot of dry grass here, which could be used as fuel. There were also many different kinds of animals, which could provide enough food for people. The terrain was flat and open. The only drawback was that it wasn't very safe. However, if a city could be built here, it would be a pretty good choice. The dwellings of the tree tribe were semi-subterranean houses. They were unique. If you didn't get close to observe carefully, you wouldn't be able to spot them at all. The guide said that the thorn grass grew in the bushes. It was a plant that looked quite similar to a sunflower. Its entire body was green, about 1.5 meters tall. At the top grew a flower the size of a palm. However, compared to a sunflower, there was a clear difference. The center of the flower was covered in tiny holes, which contained seeds. It was estimated that each flower had about 200 seeds. The size of the seeds was close to that of soybean. Outwardly, it looked quite similar to a lotus seed pod. The thorn grass plant had a straight stalk, about 2 cm in diameter, a little thicker than a person's finger. The stalk was covered in a layer of fine fuzz. However, this fuzz was actually tiny thorns, very sharp. The first time he touched it, he was accidentally pricked by the thorns. Moreover, after being pricked, his finger quickly swelled up. This wasn't due to poison, but rather the human body's reaction to the plant's resin. The guide from the tree tribe told him that after long-term contact, the people of their tribe no longer experienced this condition. This left him feeling helpless. It seemed that in the future, the tribesmen would have to endure a lot of pain when harvesting the resin. The thorn grass stalk also grew many large leaves, oval-shaped and dark green. Each leaf was about a foot long. The back of the leaf was covered in bumpy nodules, which were filled with resin. Han Feng was curious. He used a dagger to lightly cut the stalk. Immediately from the cut, a stream of white resin began to flow out. Although it flowed quite slowly. If accumulated, a considerable amount could be collected. Each thorn grass plant could produce about 300 grams of resin. This yield was already very impressive. But there was even more welcome news. The guide enthusiastically introduced. After harvesting the resin, in just 7 days, the plant can recover and produce the same amount of resin as before. So, when can you start harvesting each year? How many times can you harvest? Han Feng asked joyfully, his eyes sparkling. You can start harvesting as soon as the plant begins to flower. Just look for the nodules on the back of the leaves to swell up. That means it's ready to be harvested. The thorn grass plant starts flowering in early summer and can bloom continuously for 2 months. As long as the plant is still flowering, you can continue to harvest the resin. By midsummer, the flowers will gradually wither. Then, about a month later, the seeds will ripen. At that time, the small holes in the flower head will open automatically, and the seeds will fall to the ground on their own. Very quickly, they will grow into new thorn grass plants. By autumn, they will ripen once more. Its seeds are also edible, although the taste is a bit strange. The people in our tribe basically don't eat them, but many large birds and rodents like to eat the seeds of this plant. We often use its seeds to trap animals in the winter. We usually catch quite a bit of prey. The guide meticulously introduced the characteristics of the thorn grass plant. Han Feng was so happy he was speechless. It could be harvested twice a year. That means there's a total of 4 months for harvesting. You could get 300 grams of resin in 7 days. 2 harvests a year, totaling 120 days of harvesting. That's 17 harvests. So, 2 harvests can yield about 5 kilograms of resin. And that's just the yield from 2 thorn grass plants. It's truly amazing. What's even more amazing is that its seeds are also edible, although they don't taste good. They can be used as feed for poultry and livestock. You have to know, animal feed is also an indispensable resource. The Han tribe is raising a lot of chickens. Wouldn't it be perfect to use the seeds of this plant to feed the chickens? And from the chickens, it eventually ends up in human stomachs. That's right. Do you still have any seeds from this thorn grass plant? He asked, his heart full of anticipation. Yes, but not many are left. We kept them all in those earthen houses. I don't know if they've been damaged. I will look for them right now. After the guide finished speaking, he hurried off to find the seeds. Previously, the tree tribe was attacked by the cannibals, and some of the earthen houses had collapsed. So, Han Feng had everyone lend a hand, digging through the rubble. Under the guide's direction and identification, everyone worked together. Finally, they found a good number of black, round seeds like black beans. After some effort, they gathered about 50 to 60 caddies. After collecting the seeds, it was already getting dark. Han Feng decided to spend the night here. So, everyone got busy. Some went to gather firewood, while others took their bows and arrows to hunt nearby. Soon, they had caught several wild chickens and rabbits. With that, their food for the next 2 days was secured. At dinner, as usual, Han Feng took out the white salt and sprinkled it on the food. At this moment, when the guide saw the white salt, he suddenly told him that he had seen this thing before. This greatly surprised Han Feng. He thought to himself, could there be a salt mine nearby? He immediately asked, where have you seen it? From here, if you walk towards the sunrise for about 5 days, you have to cross a river along the way. On the other side, there's a fairy lake. By the lake, there are rocks that have this thing on them. However, the white salt there isn't as white as yours. The water in that lake is also salty. The guide described it in detail. A salt lake? There's something like that nearby? Then why is that salt lake called a fairy lake? Is it just because it has salt? Han Feng continued to press for more information, his curiosity about the strange world around him growing. Not only that, but around that fairy lake, there are many wild beasts guarding it. There are also horned herbivores. Furthermore, on the fairy lake, there is a small island that can fly. Han Feng analyzed it carefully. Guarded by wild beasts. That must mean many animals go there to drink the salt water. After all, animals also need mineral salts. As for the floating island, salt water has a high density. If there are some hollow rocks, shaped like a basin, they could also float on the surface of the salt lake. This could also be explained. But when Han Feng asked the guide about the specific situation of that floating island, he stammered, unable to explain clearly. That small island floats in the air. When Han Feng asked about the specific situation of the floating island, the guide's words left him stunned. That small floating island actually flies in the air, although it's not high above the water's surface. By the lake, there are many especially sturdy vines that grow straight up to the island, holding the island in place. The elders in their tribe said that if it weren't for those vines holding it back, that fairy island would fly away. Floating in the air? You gotta be kidding me. Han Feng thought to himself. He recalled all the physics knowledge he had ever learned. That place must have an extremely strong magnetic field. That's why a huge chunk of iron, or due to geological activity, was separated from the ground. Then, due to the principle of like poles repelling in a magnetic field, the chunk of, or was pushed up from the ground. Then it was held back by the vines, preventing it from being pushed away and just floated in the air. If this hypothesis is correct, then this would be an extremely large magnetic iron or deposit, far beyond human understanding. And the iron content in magnetic iron ore can reach 72%. It can be directly used to smelt steel, to be able to lift a whole small island. How large must this or deposit be? Just thinking about it is exciting. Han Feng was lost in a beautiful vision, till he saw him staring blankly, and timidly asked, "Chieftain, what's wrong? I want to go to that fairy lake to see. There might be something we need there. And there's a lot of it." Han Feng snapped out his daze, quickly wiping the drool from the corner of his mouth. "The thing we need is white salt. But doesn't our tribe have plenty of that already? Why would we need to go to such a faraway place to get white salt?" Dali asked, confused. "Not white salt. It's the thing that's making that island float in the sky." Han Feng's lips curled into a smile. The smile of someone who had just struck gold. The thing that can lift an island? The cavalrymen were all astonished. The guide standing beside them didn't quite understand. After Dali explained it to him, he too stared at Han Feng in amazement. The guide had only joined the Han tribe 2 days ago. He didn't know much about what Han Feng had done before. But now, hearing him speak, he understood the reason the island was floating. He couldn't help but see Han Feng as a god. "Chief, are you talking about the vines growing at the base of that island? Are those vines lifting the island up, and not just holding it in place? But what do we need those vines for? Not the vines. It's the small floating island itself. That small island is probably one enormous block of rock, and that could be a type of mineral we desperately need. If that's the case, we absolutely must have it," Han Feng said decisively. Seeing his reaction, the people around him were all a little frightened. Is it really that necessary? He looks like he's about to risk his life for it. "Chief, what kind of mineral is it? Could it be even more important than our copper? It's so far away, but you're still determined to get it." Dali asked, still confused. "That's right. If it is what I think it is, then we absolutely must get our hands on it. That type of mineral is called iron ore. It's also a type of metal. It's even harder to refine than copper ore. But it's lighter than copper, and harder too. If you strike a block of iron and a block of copper together, the copper block will break immediately." Han Feng gave a brief introduction to the metal, iron. "There's something that powerful. I always thought copper was the best. It makes such sharp copper spears. And this thing called iron is even stronger than copper." Dali exclaimed in amazement. "Of course, iron isn't just stronger. It can also be used to make many things. It's just that crafting it is very difficult. Unlike copper, which can be directly melted into a liquid and poured into a mold. Melting iron into a liquid is extremely difficult. You can only shape it by hammering it repeatedly. But we must make iron. That way, our tribe will become even more powerful." That night, after some thought and discussion, Han Feng made a decision. He sent a cavalryman back with over 50 pounds of hemp seeds. After returning to the tribe, they were to plant these seeds immediately. It was only early summer now. If they planted right away, they could still get a harvest this year. The planting location would be to the west of the central area. It wasn't a large amount in total, so planting it should be quick. On the morning of the second day, Han Feng led the remaining 5 people towards Fairy Lake. This time, they had too few people. They certainly wouldn't be able to harvest anything. This was more of a scouting mission, to prepare for the next expedition. Heading east from the tree tribe, the terrain remained very flat. The sparse forest at the beginning grew even sparser. They had to travel a great distance just to see a single tree. In its place were vast grasslands and scattered bushes. The surrounding ecosystem had also changed a great deal. The most common creature was the yellow-furred ground squirrel. They gathered in colonies, standing upright on the ground, acting as lookouts, observing any movement around them. At the slightest rustle of grass in the wind, they would immediately dart back into their burrows. Besides them, there were also fast-running, gray-furred wild rabbits. They grazed cautiously, always on alert for predators that might suddenly appear. For example, the hawks in the sky. But strangely, although there were many hawks in the sky, but they seemed to have no interest in those small animals. Hanfeng was wondering about this, when suddenly an eagle swooped down, and the prey it was targeting was a mature antelope. The eagle dove down, and, with just one talon, it snatched the antelope. Then, carrying the screaming antelope, it soared into the sky, heading east. Holy crap, that thing is definitely not an eagle. It must be a condor at least, to have such terrifying strength, to be able to snatch a whole antelope. That's just ridiculous. However, he quickly regained his composure. After all, this was a primitive world. Nothing was too strange. After that, the team continued until evening, finding a small stream to rest for the night. The surroundings were still vast plains. Only this time, on the horizon in the direction they were heading, mountains were faintly visible. When the moon in the east rose above the ground, Hanfeng finally saw a small black dot on the moon. That must be the small island floating above the lake. He could already see its silhouette. The next morning, the team of 6 continued towards the sunrise. By noon, an unexpected discovery caught his attention. It was a pile of dry dung. It was very large, and there was grass inside it. Hanfeng immediately told everyone to stop. Then, holding a small branch, he poked the dung apart, observing it closely. Inside were undigested bits of grass. One pile must have weighed more than 3 taels. This was the dung of a large herbivore. Very quickly, based on the animal tracks nearby, he preliminarily judged that if this wasn't a horse, it was definitely a bovid species, of a not-so-large size. But that didn't matter, whether it was a bovid or a horse. He wanted to bring back a herd. The Han tribe was in dire need of livestock. The surroundings were still plains, with no trees. Besides rabbits and ground squirrels, there were a few small antelopes. But there was absolutely no sign of bovids or horses. However, Hanfeng wasn't worried. These animals surely needed to eat salt too, so it was very likely that they would appear near the salt lake. This coincided with his destination, so they just had to keep going. They walked until about 4 in the afternoon, when the group was blocked by a river. This was the river the guide had mentioned. If they walked from the tree tribe to here, it would take about 3 days. But this time they were all riding beasts, so it only took a little over a day. The river was about 17 or 18 meters wide. Hanfeng wasn't sure if this river was the same one as the river next to the Han tribe. If it was the same river, that would be great. If there really was iron or here, it could be quickly transported back to the Han tribe via this river. It seemed that on the way back, he could follow the river to scout ahead. Chieftain, the river is so wide. How are we going to cross it? Dali looked at the river before him and asked Hanfeng. This question you should ask our guide. His tree tribe used to come to the salt lake to get salt. They must have passed through here before, right? Hanfeng said to Dali, while turning to ask the guide. Yes, we used to swim directly across the river. This river isn't very deep. It can be swum across. It's just that I don't know if the beasts we are riding can swim. That's right, Chieftain. Does everyone know how to swim? The guide explained to everyone, and finally asked him a question. Of course we do. Our tribe has a river too. We even bathe in the river often. As for the elk and elephants, you don't need to worry. They can all swim. We can all cross the river. But you just said you used to swim across here. So your tribe often came to that salt lake? Hanfeng asked. Not that often. Basically, we'd come once in the summer, and once in the fall. Each time, we had to gather at least 10 adult warriors, the strongest in the tribe, before we dared to go get salt. Each trip for salt had to be enough for the whole tribe to eat for half a year. Because the journey is too far, and near that fairy lake, there are very ferocious, saber-toothed beasts. It's very dangerous to go with few people. Even if we gathered 10 people, sometimes someone would still die there. The guide replied. After hearing the guide's introduction, Dali looked at the 4 or 5 people beside him and hesitated a bit. Chieftain, are we still going over there? Or should we wait until next time and bring more warriors? What, are you scared? Next time, we will definitely bring more people. But this time we still have to go. After saying that, Hanfeng took the lead, urging Hui Shan into the river, trying to wade across. The weather in early summer was already hot. Soaking in the cool river water, Han Feng felt his whole body relax. It was comfortable, pleasant, and incredibly refreshing. The river water was crystal clear. Han Feng submerged himself completely to the bottom, using his hands to gauge the depth. It was about 5 or 6 meters deep, almost like a deep swimming pool. As for Robao and Huishan, these two animals were naturally playful in water. As soon as they got into the river, they refused to get out. They sucked water up their trunks, and then sprayed it out, playing like two children. Dilly gritted his teeth and led his elk into the river. When crossing, he hugged the elk's neck tightly. It seemed he was a bit afraid of water. The others also entered the river one by one, swimming to the other side. The team rested for a while by the riverbank. Only after Robao and Huishan had played to their heart's content did they continue eastward. The terrain on the east bank of the river changed again. More trees appeared, but overall it was still mainly grassland and shrubs. However, in the distance, the terrain began to rise, and hills gradually appeared. In the sky, the silhouettes of giant eagles appeared again. They were still flying east. It seemed these eagles lived near the salt lake ahead. The floating island in the distance was now faintly visible. According to the guide, if they were on foot, it would take about 2 more days. Han Feng mentally calculated at a human's walking pace. If they focused only on walking, 2 days would be about a dozen or so kilometers, probably about 50 or 60 li. If the road was easy, it could be even farther. As dusk fell, while everyone was preparing dinner, suddenly, from a distance, came shrill cries. They were very unpleasant to hear. Hearing that piercing sound, he immediately lost interest. Han Feng had hoped it was the sound of cattle or horses, but unexpectedly, it was the braying of a donkey. However, things were not as Han Feng had predicted. When he saw the animal making that piercing cry, he and the cavalrymen were stunned. That thing was indeed a horse. It looked very suitable for riding, but Han Feng showed no signs of joy. On the contrary, the corner of his mouth twitched, because before him was a herd of zebras. "Chieftain, what kind of beast is that? It looks like that blue antelope you caught before," a cavalryman asked. Han Feng glanced at them. "You guys have strange taste. You actually want to ride a zebra." However, on second thought, he realized the Han tribe was in desperate need of draft animals right now. Finding horses was already a great thing. Thinking of this, he made up his mind. We must capture them. No matter how many livestock we have, it's not enough. If we can catch more, that's naturally for the best. That way, we can at least plant more rice. But now is not the time. Next time, I'll bring more people and try to capture this entire herd of zebras. Quickly pack up the camp. Light a fire. I think that herd of zebras seems to be fleeing. It's very likely there are fierce beasts nearby. Everyone needs to be careful. "Yes, chieftain," the men replied, and started to build a fire and cook dinner. Very quickly, kitchen smoke rose, lingering in the air. Smoke in the wilderness is very easy to spot. Their camp was quickly discovered by the giant eagles. Then, the eagles reported the news to their masters, the eagle tribe that lived on the floating island. They specialized in raising eagles for hunting. At this moment, flocks of golden-headed, giant-tailed eagles, carrying prey of all sizes, landed one by one on the floating island above the salt lake. "Father, my Xue Tu is back. It caught a small horse." A boy of about 8 or 9 years old greeted his eagle, looking at the small horse it brought back. He happily showed it off to his father, his chieftain. A Xue Tu is the general name for all eagles raised in the eagle tribe. This shows that it is also gradually maturing, just like you. You should encourage it and give it the best part of the meat today. Chieftain Ing said to his son. "Yes, father," the boy said, and immediately got to work. He used a stone knife to butcher the small horse, taking out all the entrails for the eagle to eat. He also shared about half of the horse meat with the eagle. The boy himself only kept the forelimbs, a small portion of meat, and the horse hide. The relationship between the people of the eagle tribe and their Xue Tu was not one of master and servant, but more like friends and brothers, because the Xue Tu have very long lifespans, often living to be 50 or 60 years old. They can accompany a person throughout their entire life. Usually, each person only has one companion eagle, forming an inseparable bond, stronger than true love. The boy watched his Xue Tu eat, and even carefully preened its feathers for it. Then the boy turned his head, looking towards the setting sun. Father, why isn't Ba Chu Ka back yet today? It's almost dark. The Ba Chu Ka the boy mentioned was the eagle raised by Chieftain Ing, and also the most formidable eagle in the tribe. Just as the boy finished speaking, from the distance, a powerful eagle cry rang out. The eagle tribe's Ba Chu Ka had returned. It was a different kind of eagle, as its feathers were white. Today, Ba Chu Ka returned late, but the prey it brought back was enormous. It was a snake more than 10 meters long. The snake's head had been pecked to a pulp by Ba Chu Ka's sharp beak. Ba Chu Ka did not land, but flew low, dropping the snake. Then, it soared back into the sky, circling a few times in the air. Finally, it faced west and cried out twice, before landing on the floating island, waiting for the chieftain to distribute the food. Father, what did Ba Chu Ka say? Ba Chu Ka just circled 6 times, and cried twice towards the west. That means 6 people have come from the west. They're probably here to get salt from the salt lake again. It's nothing surprising. Chieftain Ing skillfully divided the food, while explaining to his son, Father, are there any girls coming this time? This kid, you're not even as tall as an A Chu Ka, and you're already thinking about girls. Chieftain Ing tapped his son on the head, laughing as he scolded him. The boy held his head, and grinned, but didn't argue back. Tomorrow, tell Ba Chu Ka to see if it can help those people get salt. After all, the saber-toothed beast by the lake will eat them. It's not easy to travel so far to get salt. Yes, I'll have my Chu Ka go with it. The boy nodded eagerly. The next day, the great Ba Chu Ka indeed went to help Han Feng. It circled in the air, leading the way. Chieftain, follow that white eagle. We'll get to the fairy lake quickly. The guide said to him, Follow the eagle? What's with this eagle? Is it intentionally here to guide us? Han Feng was full of doubt. It must be an eagle from the eagle tribe. They often help people who come to get salt. Perhaps they saw our kitchen smoke and knew we wanted to go to the fairy lake, so they sent an eagle to guide us. Hearing this, although Han Feng was still skeptical, he had no choice but to trust it for now. And so, under the guidance of Ba Chu Ka, the team moved much faster. At noon, they saw the herd of zebras again. They seemed to sense the threat from the sky and became panicked and uneasy. Han Feng only glanced at the herd of zebras before continuing forward, because at this moment, the shape of the floating island was clearly visible, like an inverted mountain. It hung quietly above the salt lake. From a distance, it exuded a mysterious and captivating aura, as if hiding countless undiscovered secrets. Han Feng's heart couldn't help but beat faster. This expedition was about to reach its crucial moment. As for whether the floating island held the giant iron deposit he had been longing for, the answer was about to be revealed.